criminal organization out for revenge hires a mysterious assassin to take out a sworn enemy. Can the authorities stop this killer, only known by his code name, before it's too late? All this can only mean one thing. We're comparing the Day of the Jackal and the Jackal on this episode of Retro vs. Remake. I'm Reggie Parker.
I'm Dan Bueller. Welcome to another episode of Retro vs. Remake. This is the series where we compare movies and their remakes. Join us as we answer the question, should this remake exist? Today's films are Day of the Jackal and The Jackal.
All right, jumping right in. The Day of the Jackal, a 1973 film starring Edward Fox, Michael Lonsdale, Terrence Alexander, Michael Auclair, Alan Badel, Tony Britton, Derek Jacobi, Dennis Carey, Cyril Cusack, Maurice Denham, wait till he hears, Delphine Seyrig, Jacques Francois, which is the most French man in Olga George Picot, Raymond Jerome, Barry Ingham, Gene Martin, and Ronald Pickup. I did all those names just so I could get Ronald Pickup in there. We're going to talk about like 5 of these people. Maybe. Directed by Fred Zinnemann. Written by Frederick Forsyth, who wrote the book, The Day of the Jackal, in 1971. And Kenneth Ross, who did the screenplay for the film. The music is by George Delerue. And then The Jackal, 1997, starring Bruce Willis, Richard Gere, Sidney Poitier, Diane Venora, Matilda May, J.K. Simmons, Richard Linebeck, John Cunningham, Jack Black, Tess Harper, Leslie Phillips, and Steven Spinella. Directed by Michael Caden Jones. Screenplay by Chuck Fair. Music by Carter Burwell. And as I slightly mentioned, both films are based on the 1971 Frederick Forsyth novel titled The Day of the Jackal. Dan, what is your first experience with either film?
Believe it or not, Rachel, this is not my first experience with either film. I have seen parts of the remake in my youth. I was surprised to learn that it was a remake. Mm-hmm. I was like, what? That's a remake? I remember seeing parts of it. You know, it's kind of like a Bruce Willis fan, I guess, because I like the Die Hard movies when I was younger. And, I remember my buddy rented this, and we were kind of watching it. We were, like, in and out of the room. We were all, doing stupid kid stuff. Yeah. So I don't remember a lot of it. I do remember the only scene, I guess I remember from my youth is when he's doing target practice with Jack Black. That scene was just like, oh, man, I can't wait for that to come up. Other than that, I didn't remember it. And, yeah, obviously I'd never seen the original.
Yeah. So... yeah, for all intents and purposes, it's my first time seeing either film. I'm sure I've seen parts of The Jackal. It seems to be a running theme online as well. Parts of Jackal, like, on TV at some point, but I never, like, sat down and watched the movie. So, first time for both films. With that being said, this may be a lot of your first times with the films. We'll jump right into our synopsis. So, this one's interesting because the same things happen, but one's more, I guess, fleshed out, I guess we'll say. That'll come up. Synopsis. A criminal organization believes it was personally aggrieved by government forces. In retaliation, the criminals hire an international hitman operating under the codename of the Jackal. They hire the hitman to assassinate a government official. This Jackal has a long history of assassinations without getting caught. His true identity is a complete mystery. As he prepares for the assassination, using a series of disguises and stolen IDs in the process, the government turned to an expert to identify him. This expert has to work fast to solve the mystery of the Jackal, as the target of the assassination refuses to alter their schedule. To make matters worse, there's a mole in the government's ranks that is feeding the Jackal tips to keep him one step ahead of the authorities. After some time, the mole is discovered and removed from the group. This helps the expert, who is hot on the Jackal's tail, but the main disguises and plots prove to be too much. The Jackal has everything in place for the assassination. In the last-ditch effort, the expert is able to locate and thwart the Jackal moments before the assassination. Each movie then ends its respective way. Those are the bones of it. There's a lot to fill out.
Yeah, pretty much there's an assassination of a very high political figure, and this guy is a pro, and ultimately it's the race against the clock to stop him.
Yeah. That's it. With that being said, because the plot is effectively the same, a good place to start is the characters. There isn't necessarily consistency in the film as to characters in terms of names, what they're doing, how they interact with the plot. But like I said, the bones are there. So we'll start with the most consistent character. In the 1973 film, we had Edward Fox, who plays the Jackal.
Beautiful piece of work, this. Really excellent.
Nice.
And in 1997, we had Bruce Willis, who plays the Jackal.
Interested in an intermediate range system, high cyclic rate.
Man portable.
Compact, vehicle mounted unit.
What caliber?
No smaller than 7.62.
Edward Fox was a relative unknown at the time. That was kind of the reason they cast him. Just kind of first impressions of him. He's British, so he definitely comes across as kind of like almost like a Bond type character. Like even though he's a villain, he's like well put together, very professional, only about his business, and I think that serves his character throughout the film because he is sort of dapper, but he's also a blank slate, so it allows us as the audience to kind of go with the changes when they are there.
Yeah.
Any thoughts for you on the?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. He's this blank slate. He's very proper, very clean cut. Almost like Bond, like you said. And it's easy to go along on the journey with him because he's not like a typical mustache twirling villain. I guess he is the villain ultimately because we have to stop him. But he's not painted in this light where you're just like, well, he's a terrible person. You're just like, well, what's going on with this guy?
Yeah.
Let's figure out like his whole process, and we do learn every step of the process.
Single.
I'm just going to say that the original film, very thorough.
Yes.
You don't skip anything. So if you're wondering how to go from how to plan an assassin against a high political figure, Jackal's,
especially in the
Jackal.
70s.
Yeah. Very good movie to watch. But overall, I thought it was a pretty solid performance. He does have a turn, ultimately, that I do forget, like, why do you do that? Oh, right, he's the villain.
Right, right.
Like, because he's kind of likable in a way because he's not really terrible and he's really good at what he does.
Right.
So he's very, like I said, very thorough as well. And he's just very professional and matter of fact, and just like very certain way things have to go for him to do his job. And he's all about the job and he doesn't really take anything too personally. And if it's just in the way, then that person just has to go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's very methodical and professional in that way. Like, I think you're locking on something that I noticed as well is that the way the film is shot, you're following him like a protagonist. Yeah. So you're right. When the turn starts to happen, I'm like, what? Same thing. I was like, what? Why do you do that?
Yeah, why would you do that?
It's like, I just want you to assassinate that one guy. And I guess also just to kind of frame things as well, in the 1973 film, the Jackal is kind of hired to assassinate basically the president of France,
Charles de Gaulle.
So like there's that level of like international intrigue. So like different people are looking for him across the globe. So it's kind of a more international film in that way. And I guess just saying that to say that like it takes a while before we figure out who's really chasing him. Right. So like you're just so locked into his story and his process.
Yeah. There's no because if he's our villain, there's no real hero to follow for at least the first hour. You're like, who's? I know these are all the good guys, but where's my good guy?
Right.
He's really not there for a while.
Right. So you've got Edward Fox basically kind of carrying the film.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, it's just process. Like, here's my disguises, here's my IDs, here's how I'm going to get my weapon. You're right. You go through every step of the process with him. From the beginning when he's like, this is my price, this is how you're going to pay me, this is the type of weapon I want, this is my hotel, this is
the type of car I need, this is where I'm going to get my fake ID, this is where I'm going to go through that whole thing with that. Everything. Every little detail. But I guess it's kind of like the character in that way.
Yeah, it is very much the character in that way. Versus Bruce Willis, his version of the Jackal too. I am initially getting that kind of like they're trying to class him up. He's like very smug and like put together. Like he looks like he has expensive clothing and you know, smug is really the only thing I can think of. He's just kind of like, like I got this. And after that initial take, it gets into like Nick Cage level fun for me because it's like so many costumes in disguises. Like the original Jackal, as much as they say like he's a man of mystery in disguise, not that many disguises.
Not that many disguises. He has like 3, I think. He doesn't even dye his hair until like well after we're really close to the assassination.
Right.
Like they've been after him for like weeks now or whatever, but he's finally changing because he killed certain persons, and then he just decides to dye his hair. But as opposed to Bruce Willis, we're getting so many wardrobe changes.
Yeah. He's got like the wig game is crazy. Like he's got long hair. He's kind of like almost like a Cali. He's not like a surfer guy because he's not built like that, but he's got the kind of like hippie hair going on. There's times where he looks like
he's got the Canadian guy.
Yeah, hey,
over here, hey, Charlie.
Charlie, yeah.
They don't know who he is. CIA can't track him.
But we have a physical description. At least that isn't going to change.
He's got a lot of faces this one.
Which is fun, and like I think that as funny as it sounds, because it's not really comedic film in a lot of ways. I kind of like it. I'm like, yeah, cool. Like there's costumes. Like
it is engaging as a viewer. I mean, I'm just gonna take it back a little bit. Like I did like the initial setup of Bruce Willis because like he's very much like that original Jackal.
Yes, but
he does get to have a little more fun with it because he does get to do these characters, and with them comes like these personalities, these different accents. So it is fun, and especially because there are a lot of steps, like we said, like the original, but at least he's like doing something different every time.
Yes.
So it's easier to keep your attention as opposed to the original where it was just like, what are we doing now? What are we doing? I thought we did that already. We're doing this now? But like, you know, just something simple like a wardrobe change and adding a wig and throwing in an accent. It just, you're able to follow it a little bit easier just because it's interesting. Something different is happening. Because there's a lot of steps in both of these films. So I really appreciated that.
I think by breaking up the looks, it also helps because in the remake there's a lot of traveling, right? Kind of between the border and like different cities and stuff like that. And he almost has like a look for every where he is. So like the Canadian version of him is a different look than like when he's doing a regatta, for instance. There's a regatta for some reason, you know? Just having those different looks, I think, breaks up the film in a way that you really don't get in that original film. Like, I felt that early on, I was enjoying the process, and then at a certain point, I was just like, all right, you know, like, what's next? Because, like, they foreshadow disguises. They foreshadow dyeing the hair and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, that's going to happen, like, here. And it doesn't happen in the places you're expecting. And, like, Bruce Willis, they don't even tell you. Well, I guess they tell you, but like he's just like, here I am. I look different passport, drop boxes here and there, and I think it really is helpful for me as an audience member to say that this Jackal could be mysterious because like he doesn't look the same in any 2 scenes, you know, until we get kind of later in the film. So it feels a little more plausible in that way.
Yeah, I guess he kind of fits the mold of what you think of when they were kind of just describing this guy, like the FBI or whatever, the good guys. They were just like, he's like, we don't know what he looks like we don't know anything about this guy because he's like, you know, just blends in. And like by Bruce Willis's Jackal just like constantly changing his look. Well, yeah, it makes sense that they couldn't figure out what this guy looked like.
Sure.
So yeah, I do like that. I'll say this about his character: it started off very strong, but then because they introduced our protagonist. Then it kind of becomes less business, a little more personal.
Yeah.
And the closer we got to bridging that gap, I guess, between those 2 characters, the more cartoon villainy, especially by the end.
Yeah.
Which is straight out. Like you said, Nicolas Cage. I was like, well, that's a good way to describe his acting towards the end of the movie. Because like I'd say in the beginning, he's more like almost like a Christian Bale in American Psycho. Yeah. It's very cool, collected, methodical, and then just like going nuts at the fucking end. I'm gonna kill her. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here now?
It was the 90s. Because like it doesn't necessarily feel like a 90s action movie at first. It does have that more methodical thriller aspect to it, and then by the end, like you said, there's additional characters, and it gets more mustache twirling, more like I'm the big bad Hans, type level villainry. It just we're gonna talk about a lot of the performances in this movie. Like the range of the performance is all over the place, especially as the movie gets like into the end game. Because I think they just like were like, all right, here's the action we kind of promise in films like this, and I think it does hurt some of like the character development that was built early on. It kind of gets to the point where you're like, wait, what? What's that about?
Yeah, the cool, collected, methodical guy is completely gone by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I missed
that guy, right? Yeah,
exactly.
I missed that guy. Because it is like, it really wasn't what I was expecting early on in the film. I was like, how's Bruce Willis going to work here? And it was working really well, actually. I would say for most of the film. Yeah. The other thing I kind of wanted to touch on for these characters before we go into additional details, the level of violence is more consistent in the remake. So like, there's no question mark of who the villain is because very early on, our villain is more violent. It takes a while for like real, tangible violence to happen in the original film. And I think that like that's a big difference because like we both mentioned, we both watched the film and we're like, I was rooting for that guy.
Yeah. Why do you have to do that to her?
Yeah. And I think it is because, maybe through our own film watching, I mentioned James Bond because that's how the character felt. He felt like Bond. He was like, I'm going to seduce this woman. I'm going to
Seems like a really cool guy.
It seems like it. It does make you forget that like ultimately he's trying to assassinate the president of a first world nation.
He's charming.
Yeah. And, the way they frame it, too, maybe those guys do have a beef. Maybe they got that Algeria thing, It's like both films end up dealing with different reasons why criminal organizations want revenge. And because I don't have a lot of ties to France, I guess, I was like, cool, do your thing. But yeah, there are moments that I think as we get later in the film, there's one scene in particular at like Isabella's house where like the level of violence ramps up so insanely, and I think the movie never pulls back on the throttle in the remake after that scene. Yeah. It's honestly maybe the Jack Black thing is where the turn really happens.
I think that's where the tension and suspense really starts to build. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, people are dying now.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're almost at like the hour 40 mark, besides like the guy who's like forging stuff for him.
Yeah.
But even that, like,
I wasn't even sure he killed him.
Right.
I was like, okay, he put him in the trunk and kind of locked it, so maybe he just knocked him out.
Yeah.
I bet he did have his eyes open, so I didn't think he was knocked out.
Yeah.
But it was such a weird death. So just talking about the action, a couple of the deaths are weird. Because not only is it almost like kind of out of character. I mean, that guy was trying to blackmail him for more money, so I can get that. But like he hit him, and it doesn't seem like he hit him that hard. Right. And then he kind of died, and then like later when he killed the woman, which I think is the turn we're both talking about, he like kissed her to death, kind of like sucked, like gave her like the kiss of death, literally a kiss of death, so she couldn't breathe, and then she didn't resist at all. She just kind of died.
Some of the action is illegible in the original film, and not so much in the remake. It's legible. It's over the top.
For sure, man.
But you know exactly what's happening, and like you're saying, there's scenes where like, did that person die? Like there's a couple scenes like that in the movie. I think until like maybe the last two deaths where it's like kind of up in the air. It's like, are people dying? You know. So like again, I think by leaning into that sort of '90s ultra violence, we have a clear distinction of our villain. I think to me, that's the biggest difference between these two films in terms of the Jackal. It's very obvious that he's a villain. In the remake, it's less obvious in the original.
Yeah, I'd say that, paired with all the different characters that Bruce Willis gets to play, and then plus because they decided to kind of Hollywood up, this one's personal, so there is that kind of personal thing between him and, I guess, the protagonist, which we'll get into when we discuss him. So that, for me, is like the biggest thing, because like the Jackal's like, in the Day of the Jackal, he's professional from beginning to end, right? Nothing's personal, but like Bruce Willis, it's that guy. Yeah. So he's gonna do his thing, and he's not. He loses that professional, I guess, air about him, and I miss that. Yeah. I wish he had that the whole movie.
For like Edward Fox, like everything he does outside of like the plan feels like a business decision. It's like, all right, well, this guy's exploiting me. She knows too much. The cops are here. The bath house, like the guy he picks up from the Turkish bathhouse is like, you know too much. It's like anytime someone gets taken out, it's kind of because they got too close to the plot of the assassination, as it were. So, whereas Bruce Willis, who, especially by the end, was like, it doesn't matter who's collateral damage.
And then it's like, it gets cartoony. He's like, I want you to tell him he can't protect his women. It's like, are you really doing that?
They try to give this Jackal like a psychological profile that, I'm with you, like, it weakens the character because his motivation is so silly. Like, that can't be his motivation for his, like, decades-long career of assassination. Like, the women of the people I was hired to kill. Like, it shouldn't be personal.
It shouldn't.
Ever for this guy, Like, I get that they have backstory, so, like, that could be interesting, but, like, now you've taken a character who's like, I'm just a gun for hire. I'm going to do the most efficient, like, killing possible. And now he's like, actually, I kind of got this thing where, like, if there's, like, a woman, like, she's got to suffer so the guy knows that he can't stop me. I don't know. I did prefer Edward Fox's sort of continuous professionalism. Right. But in terms of kind of, like, plot development, moving the movie along, he gets a lot of help, but like I think that overall, I'm giving the edge to Bruce Willis, and it's really because multiple disguises, very defined early on, less by the end, but because he's got a few people to like push off of in terms of acting, I think it just like fleshes it out really well, and I think like when it stops working, it feels to me like kind of late game in the movies, like the last 10-15 minutes start to get a little, but before that, I felt it was a relatively consistent portrayal. Yeah,
I thought his character, or this portrayal of the character, is a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
The original film is 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that first hour was a little rough for me. Yeah. So by Bruce Willis, doing different voices, doing different accents, it kept things interesting. I was able to be engaged more. So I appreciated that. And I give him the edge too.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, like, it's bold, kind of the pacing of the original film. It's almost like it's almost like more artsy, kind of, but at the same time, it starts to drag. I remember after the first hour, I was like, oh man, because like I was with it, I was with it, and then that kind of stopped at some point in the movie, and then
because it's not really plot. We're just like, well, now we're getting this, and now we're getting this, and they're getting closer, but they're not getting him. It's like nothing was really happening.
Right.
It's just kind of shopping for groceries, I guess, for a long time. It was weird.
I mean, the only thing I'll kind of give the movie in terms of, I guess, development there was against his better judgment, the Jackal continued with his mission. For whatever reason, it seemed like something that he really wanted to, like, complete, when really, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, take half the cut of the job.
Yeah.
This thing's been compromised. You don't have to continue on.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know, like, there's like literally a fork in the road.
Yeah, he's literally at a crossroads. He's like, go to Paris or go to Italy. He's like, go to Paris. And the motivation is It's unclear.
It's very unclear.
He does already have half the money,
Yeah.
and he is told it is compromised. And he said, "I could drop this anytime I want."
He could.
For some reason, he didn't. Hubris, maybe.
Maybe hubris. Like they don't develop that enough for us to know.
Exactly.
But it did also feel out of character because it's like,
Right.
no, dude.
Yeah, you're a professional. You said if the heat is too hot, and then you're gonna, leave, and everyone will be fine with that. But for some reason, he didn't. I don't know.
It makes kind of more sense to continue the mission with this personal aspect in the remake. So,
Right. So yeah, I guess in a way it helps to move the plot because Bruce Willis is like, that guy's trying to track me.
Yeah.
This is gonna be easy.
Yeah.
That guy with his Irish accent, which we'll get to.
We'll talk about that later. Because like the Jackal is like, a man of mystery, we'll move towards sort of our first kind of protagonist, as it were. Especially if you're talking about the original film, first and maybe last. In the original film, you have Michael Lonsdale, who plays Deputy Commissioner Claude LaBelle.
The following conversation was recorded at 6:15 this morning. The number being dialed was identified as Molitor.
And in the 1997 remake, I'm going to make this two characters. We've got Sidney Poitier as FBI Deputy Director Carter Preston.
A pro calls himself the Jackal.
And Diane Venora as Major Valentina Kozlova of the MVD.
I repeat, you don't get fuck you! Fuck you! You skull-faced cunt! Fuck you! All right, that's enough.
Russian Ministry of Affairs. That's what the MVD is. So, in case you didn't know. I mentioned it kind of earlier, but like Michael Lonsdale, to me, feels very much like a Poirot type detective. Another professional, right? Like a guy who is able to kind of decipher clues and things of that nature. Like he's like paying attention in a way that it seems no other character in the film is able to, but not very fleshed out.
He's a pretty boring character. I couldn't tell you one thing about him. Like I know he's there. I know he's important, and he's like the highest. I don't know, the most qualified man to do this job, I guess. Mm-hmm. And he's in charge, and he does tell people to do things. But at the end of the day, I don't remember like a really interesting thing he did, except for the very end, because he was able to save the day kind of randomly,
super random.
So. And he didn't even like figure out some stuff. Like sometimes it was like one of his like guys working for him was like, "Well, the passport was stolen here, so maybe we should go here." And he's like, "Yeah, that does happen.
That does happen."
It's like okay, so he's not like this. I guess he's not the yin to the Jackal's yang. I guess he's not like this methodical in the same sense that the Jackal is. Like he's just kind of he's good at his job, and I guess he's better than everybody else.
Yeah.
But
marginally.
But they didn't really give us enough of him, or like give us any personality of him. Like I don't know anything about the guy.
Well, as you said, that sort of yin and yang thing there. I was like, these characters are operating independently of each other.
Yeah.
if they ever meet, it does not matter. Because he's always one step behind him. Because he's a late entry in the film.
Yeah, very late. He's like at the hour mark.
Yeah.
We don't meet our hero until like an hour in. It's insane.
It's like going kind of so well for the Jackal that I'm like, yeah, all right, stop. And then they're finally like, all right, we're going to get like a counter to this person. Like you mentioned, like he's not like this super detective. I mentioned Poirot, but like Poirot does it all himself. And this guy's getting like help from all over the place.
Yes.
It doesn't feel even, to your point. Like it doesn't feel like the Jackal is having a lot of trouble with this particular person, because ultimately, if you really break it down, like he does not solve the case of the Jackal. Like the Jackal, the Jackal more or less wins.
He could have won if Jackal didn't bow, or at that one point, he could have almost had him.
Yeah, he basically was at the end game. So like especially for a movie where it's like you're 2 hours, two movies, maybe. You're 2 hours in, for basically like the end game being like, all right, we're just gonna be at the place and hope this assassination doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's kind of
like
we're good at stopping for shit. So we're just gonna kind of be where the president is.
Let's look for open windows. Yeah, like a lot of the things that are stopping the Jackal, and there's not much really, would have been in place regardless. So it's just, unfortunately, it's a character who's slightly strong in places, but like not consistently enough. Like he's introduced too late. He's not like really, really solving things. And I get it, like the Jackal is being tipped off, but like, I don't know, like he doesn't feel as strong as a counterweight, I guess is what I'm saying, to the Jackals. I think the movie kind of required at points.
Yeah, and like we said, he's introduced at the hour mark. So we've already been following this organization that's trying to track the Jackal. And it's not like his introduction like gets them closer to stopping the Jackal. It's just the train's already moving and he's just kind of boarded at this random stop and it's still going and he's not helping it go faster.
Right.
So it's like, did we really need him? Or could we just have kept the characters we were with before?
You probably could have kept the characters you were with because there were scenes too with like some of where there was palpable tension. Like when the Jackal first gets on the train, I'm like, oh, maybe they're gonna like stop. He's gonna have to like do something to get out of this scenario, and like the train just kind of gets where it's going. Like he is absolutely a step behind him at more or less all times of the movie.
Yep.
And for your kind of main detective protagonist type character to never got the upper hand on the villain is it's a weakening portrayal, as it were. And look, I appreciate the guy's performance because he is like, I mean, he's doing exposition. Let's call it what it is. Like he's doing that well, and he does elevate the search party, I guess, for lack of a better word. But too late and not enough. Unfortunately.
I mean, I'll give it this. If there was like this real life Jackal, like this is probably how it would go down in real life. You wouldn't find the whiz kid who could match the psyche of this terrorist. So like it would be kind of boring and just some random dude who's not as good as him. And the only way he would be able to get him probably would be luck.
Yeah.
So it's realistic and it doesn't like, give into like Hollywood cliches to please an audience because you're not gonna find that with Day of the Jackal. So I'll give it that.
I think the word you just used is kind of perfect for these two characters who are really going to be the brunt of what we're talking about in the original film. Yeah. Realism. I think that the movie is almost realistic to a fault at times.
Right. Because
I think the book, which I haven't read, is probably really well written in terms of like how meticulous someone would be in this situation, and they sort of translated that to film in a meticulous manner, and it's more like what could really happen versus what like a more stylized version of that is, and not to say that doesn't work. It works actually quite well for the film, minus some pacing issues, but yeah, just it's not as interesting.
It's not as interesting. It's not really that exciting. The suspense, the thrill isn't really there because it is kind of almost like you could just say it's like a documentary. Yeah, we're just following a day in the life of the Jackal.
It is the Day of the Jackal. It's like the Jackal, like he got a baby. He changed his shirt. He slept in. Like it is the Day of the Jackal.
Yeah. So, but. Which is a bold take because Hollywood would never make a movie like that because it's hard to follow at times and it doesn't hold your hand. It's not like leading you like, oh, this is important. Pay attention here because this is important. It never does that.
If you peeled like 20 minutes off the movie, I would have been like, all right, like it was an awarded movie. I understand it because like it is a good film, but it's just like not what I think a lot of, like you said, American audience or Hollywood audience would expect, versus 97, which is really leaning into that. So kind of getting there. I mentioned Sidney Poitier, who is probably the closest thing to Michael Lonsdale in the film. He plays Deputy Director Carter Preston. This is, for Sidney, this is a pretty flat portrayal. There's really not much to Carter Preston. He's kind of just there to, I don't know.
To introduce Richard Gere's character.
Richard Gere in, the Diane Venora's character. Like, he's not as capable in a lot of ways as Diane Venora's Major Valentina. There are some moments here and there where he's like, where Richard Gere is kind of like moralizing whether he grabs a gun or not. He's like, "Ow!" Like, okay, he has some upper hand. He sees certain things, but like, it feels very much like I'm getting too old for this shit. You know?
Yeah, it's weird because he's like pretty heavy in the beginning, and then all of a sudden when Richard Gere's there, it's like, well, he's gone. It's like, why is Sidney Poitier not there anymore?
Yeah,
Isn't he kind of like important? Don't we need to watch Richard Gere like this? International terrorist, I guess.
That's what J.K. Simmons is for.
And they're all like supposed to watch him, but like they usually just leave it for the Russian major, who's not even like an American.
Right, what's her jurisdiction here?
It's like we don't have any American eyes on him.
Yeah.
So like, I didn't understand that decision.
That's a great point. At some point, there's like 0 Americans.
Yeah. So, but this takes place in America.
Yeah.
The remake. So.
Just to kind of sorry to jump in here, but like we mentioned in the original film, they're trying to kill the French president because the OSA, who are like kind of like former French expats who were kind of pissed that France just gave up Algeria. So they're trying to kill the president. They're not very good at it, so they hired the Jackal.
Dude, so can we talk about that assassination attempt in the beginning of the movie?
Yes. Let's talk about it.
So there's just like a motorcade. I guess Charles de Gaulle is in there. This movie does not hold your hand, so you're not exactly sure what's happening. You think, okay, I guess that's an important political figure in this motorcade. So it's just going by, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, these guys just hanging on the side of the road just pull out these machine guns, just start fucking blasting.
But they're like late. They're like kind of shooting the shit, and we're like, oh.
The time elapsed from the first to the last shot was 7 seconds. In all, more than 140 shots were fired. Several bullets pierced the president's car. One came within an inch of his head. But, as if by a miracle, neither he nor anyone else was hurt.
It's a really poor attempt at killing everyone. It feels, they shoot more bullets than I think Godfather when Sonny's at the toll booth. Like, they miss everybody. They didn't hit the president. They didn't hit not one guard. And they're like, it's kind of like a miracle. It's like, no, it's kind of like these guys suck. And then they're immediately basically disbanded. They're like, all right, we're going to round these guys up.
It was so nuts because it's like, it seemed very sloppy. I'm not going to lie. There's just like a random drive-by shooting kind of situation going on. And then they decide, okay, let's hire the best assassin in the world.
Which is, by the way, why we're rooting for Edward Fox. Because like we've seen their best attempt, and we see how much better he is at it than them.
Their best attempt was complete garbage. It just seemed like, we're talking about luck on the good guy side. It just seemed like luck that, like, oh, he's just driving by here now. We all have machine guns. It's like, I don't know. It seems sloppy as hell.
It was all set up to not be sloppy, though, because like you see, like, here's the motorcade, here's like the plan and all this
guys on the radio, all right, it's coming around. It's like,
and it's kind of like the motorcade just starts driving by, like, oh, and they grab their like machine guns, and it's like, yeah, dude, what?
It
was pretty.
It's poor.
Pretty bad.
It's poor.
Pretty bad attempt. And then like your entire organization, just like everyone got caught. Everyone but like 5 guys are like out. You know, all your money's frozen and stuff like that. They're not doing so hot. they need the Jackal.
And that's the most action you're going to get until the end of the movie.
It sure is. It sure is. Minus that crossroads. Or like maybe like painting a car, or like randomly crashing into someone randomly. Where'd that guy go, by the way? Like they never really cleaned that.
Yeah, where's his dog?
Yeah, the dog. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
It's a good aside. It's a good aside. The remake, we have these sort of Russian kind of like mob,
KGB,
ex-KGB oligarch mobster type character, like very much how a '90s film would portray Russia.
Yeah.
And my brother,
Sam asked me, she's like, "You think this is filmed in Russia?" I'm like, "Since the Russians are portrayed as the villains, probably not."
Probably not. And like, honestly, I don't even remember the villains. It doesn't matter. It's like my brother Yuri and Mikhail. I know for sure somebody is Yuri. I almost guarantee that guy's name was Mikhail. But like, Sidney Poitier for some reason, and Diane Venora as Major Valentina Kozlova, they kind of like go up. This one ex-KGB guy like recently got out of like lockup or something. Something happened to him. He's free, and he's at this like nightclub. I'm like, all right, we got a club scene. When this like Russian militia military operation comes in, this KGB type organization is like, screw that, and they come in like guns blazing. Sidney Poitier is not doing so hot. Maybe that's why he's out of the movie. And Diane Venora's character like gets a kill shot on the Russian kind of mobster guy's brother. And it's actually a decent setup in terms of like when all the goons go back to like, well, they killed one of ours. What'd you do? Like, well, we didn't get them.
Yeah. He's like, wait, so they killed my brother, and how many did you kill? Like, no, but then we were outnumbered. Okay, let me just pick up this action shot. And I like this man. Someone like
this is a man, brother that I've loved.
I thought that was pretty cool. Unfortunately, never fucking see that guy again the rest of the fucking movie. Like, do we?
No, I don't think so. And like, I want to like shout him out, but like, all right, so he is either
trying to read the Russian name off of Wikipedia.
He's either Yuri Stepanov. You know what? I bet it's Jonathan Aris' Alexander Redzinski. Or maybe not.
I couldn't tell you, man.
I don't know. I watched the whole movie. I don't know, and I'm sorry. Not that important of a character, but a really good scene.
Yeah,
it's a really good scene.
Yeah, they set up him as a villain beautifully.
Yeah, I think where they start to lose me, and I think this is where the remake kind of struggles, is like the logistics. So Sidney Poitier happened to be there when someone from the Russian Ministry of Affairs killed your brother, so now you are mad at the head of the FBI?
Well, they're not mad at the head of the FBI.
Well, no, we find out.
Well, yeah.
It's because they're trying to kind of stick with the Day of the Jackal type plot. I think they are shooting really high for who they want to like try to take out. Because like, if we're going to try to take out the French president, we might as well try to take out, seemingly, wink, wink, the director of the FBI. And then, I guess, spoilers, but you shouldn't be spoiled at all. Turns out it's the First Lady of the United States.
Yeah.
That's a long, roundabout way to get there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird choice. I knew it wasn't going to be the head of the FBI because we didn't see the picture, and they purposely kept that.
Right. That was a good point.
Yeah. So we were led to believe that it's the head of the FBI because the brother was killed, but no, it's actually the First Lady, which I kind of saw like I definitely knew it wasn't the head of the FBI.
Yeah.
I didn't hate that it was the First
No,
Lady.
I didn't hate it. It just from a motivation standpoint, I guess. You know what? An FBI operation killed his brother. He's mad at the United States.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
I didn't really give a fuck who the
It doesn't really
as long as it was a high profile person. Like I was like, because they did the president of France, I was like, are they gonna kill the American president?
Yeah, that
this
was
is kind of fucking badass. They were going there.
Yeah.
But the First Lady, which I guess
plausible,
Yeah, a little more plausible because
First Lady,
it'd be really hard to kill the president, especially after Kennedy. They don't let that shit.
No.
They're not gonna have an open window around him anymore.
First Lady, you might get lucky. Oh man, that's so silly. But yeah, I like the setup in the original film much more. Just because, kind of going back to it's personal. They killed my brother, I believe Yuri. And now I am mad, and I'm going to kill you.
Well, that's the MO of the remake. Just make everything personal. All these villains and all these heroes, they all have personal ties. That's why we're going after them, which is not what the original did at all. So that's a knock what the remake did. I definitely let's just professional. Like, we're this organization that, like you said, these expatriates of France who are mad that the president gave away this country, and so now we're gonna get him back.
Right.
So I like that. It's all business. You fucked us over, so we're gonna do this because this is not what this country's about.
And I think kind of leaning back into that, who's the protagonist thing that we had an issue with, because of the way they presented it. Like, I don't know about France's relations with Algeria. Like, they introduce a character that's in like the IRA, and you got to kind of deal with the politics of that. I was like, maybe that was a shit move. Like, it's like you could see a film like an American film, kind of The Expendables, kind of like this, where like an aggrieved American veterans are pissed because the state basically betrayed them. So like in that sense, it was like, is the Jackal like a bad guy? Like maybe the French president like does kind of suck. I don't know, right? Like I don't know. So I think by making things a little more personal in this remake, it helps ground me in the sense of like I don't have to know about Russian relations. Not that any 90s movie has to. But like I at least know why this guy is mad. In like the original film, I know why they're mad. I just don't have any real context for it personally. So I guess kind of going back into that original scene with the Russian brother kind of getting taken out. This is a very good scene for Diane Venora. She gets the kill shot. It kind of immediately elevates her. There are times where Sidney Poitier is like, like I trust her. She's answered a question about women in combat and stuff like that. Like, and she also has this kind of bitching like burn or stalk or something like that. It's kind of cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So like, because in the original film, Michael Lonsdale is kind of boring and Sidney Poitier is kind of boring. I appreciate that, like, Diane Venora isn't. And they give her a little bit of action with Richard Gere. That's kind of a will they, won't they thing that's completely forced. But
it's completely forced, but I didn't hate it because it ultimately didn't go there.
Right.
Right. It was kind of like, oh, we never got to do it because he died.
We get a funny beat out of that. It's like I'm out of practice. So, ultimately, though, those two characters, very similar to the original film, aren't as consequential as you think they would be.
No. The only real consequence is Major Valentina. The only consequence is really Major Valentina is when she dies.
Yeah.
That kind of just raises the stakes.
Yeah.
The Jackal, he's good and he's going to get you all. So that's really the only...
very strong scene, by the way.
That was great.
That was a really strong scene. We'll get to that.
Yeah, ultimately, Sidney Poitier, I don't think he really matters. I almost think you could have combined... Well, we haven't talked about Richard Gere's character, but I think you could have just combined his and Richard Gere's character.
Yeah. It's like the only reason Sidney's there is a plausible reason why this is about Americans. Yeah,
I guess so.
I mean, he's the only link back to America in that first scene. And once he's done his job there, we're kind of done with him. I never felt like he was like the leader.
No.
Like he was doing leader type stuff. And I was like, I'm kind of more interested in Major Valentina.
It's because like Valentina was kind of just leading the way, and it's not like she had to like report to him.
No.
She just kind of did what she did, and I guess she wouldn't report to him because she's Russian,
right?
He's American, so
it's very interesting that kind of post Cold War. Why are we working with the Russian Ministry of Affairs to whatever we are?
It's muddy as anything.
Yeah,
I think we'll get to like more about what Valentine does, but it's really hard to talk about without talking about.
I think we have to move to this next step. So technically, you can kind of lump this guy in with these characters as well.
Yeah, I think he's more.
He's definitely more Michael Lonsdale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yes, he's definitely a lot more like Commissioner Claude LaBelle than anyone else. in this movie, we have a kind of new character. Richard Gere plays Declan Joseph Mulqueen.
Mulqueen, IRA sharpshooter.
He's currently serving time for some old weapons charges.
Who are you really looking for? A pro. Calls himself the Jackal.
I can identify him by his face, more importantly by his methods.
Richard Gere.
As an ex-IRA, like Irish rebel terrorist who's in the maximum lockup prison in America.
Turns out he's framed by the Jackal. It's making it really personal. It's Richard Gere with an Irish accent. What? It doesn't work. It does not work.
I fought for me country. It's like, it is a very all over the place accent.
What are you doing with the accent, Richard Gere?
And you know what's interesting? Gere was originally cast to basically be the Jackal.
That's funny because when I was watching, I was like, you know what? I think Gere would have been really good as the Jackal.
He would have been sick.
I could see him like taking on these different personas a lot easier than Bruce Willis. Not for nothing. I think he's better actor than Bruce Willis.
Yeah, that's fair. That's really fair.
Yeah, but so like when I was watching, I was like, man, I think they really should have put Gere as the Jackal.
I think they're like, it was a great turn for Bruce Willis because like, it's just a better character. To play with, and I was like, this is kind of cool, right?
Yeah. I mean, Bruce Willis did fine with it, but I would
Richard Gere would have, to me, he would have come across as much more menacing, like just much more unpredictable. Whereas like Bruce Willis, like I said, I was making a Nick Cage impression because it was like kind of fun. You know? it wasn't really menacing until like it was, but I think that was more the violence than the character itself. And I think Richard Gere would have done a great job of just like being that like mysterious, like unforgiving, like just murderer type guy.
Yeah, and I think he could have captured kind of that like Bond-esque thing that Edward Fox did a lot better.
Totally. And, you know, the original casting choice would have made sense. You almost wish that like I read this somewhere, like you almost wish like Liam Neeson was more popular at the time, because like that would have been a nice Gere Neeson like kind of playing off each other. That would have been
a lot better.
This would be like a movie a lot more people would have seen, you know?
Yeah.
Not that it did bad, like it was a box office success.
But it's just Richard Gere, like when I saw Richard Gere, I was like, okay, I can see this. And then he talked, and I was like, oh no. Oh no. What are you doing?
Charms. Top of the morning to you.
You might as well have been saying that.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well. It was really, really rough. Because, like, you know, it's open scene. I'm kind of like watching because you don't know who it is at first. He's like shadow boxing his jail cell.
Yeah.
All right, like we got some Cape Fear type.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
It's gonna be badass. And then like it's a rough accent.
And I think we discussed this very briefly before we started recording. Why did he have to be Irish?
I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Like there's no tie into the original film about that. Like at this point in like the late 90s, I guess we're still in the IRA kind of thing, but like
his IRA ties don't do anything to the plot.
Nothing. You know, there's like some illusion of like if anyone from IRA tries to like, you know, like abscond with you, well, I've got orders to shoot to kill. Like it's a Poitier line, but
nobody tries to abscond with him.
No, it's
what's happening.
And
he easily just could have been Richard Gere with his American accent, and I would not have been distracted every time he talked.
It almost feels like someone completely unrelated to the plot of this film has like a certain political take on the IRA. It was like they mentioned like bombings and stuff like that. It's like that wasn't me war. Like I did it different. You know, it's like all right, like I don't care. It has nothing to do with this. Like it's the Russians and the head of the FBI. Like I don't know, but like. Basically, Declan is there. One, at first, not even really to be there. He's really there to get another character.
Yeah.
We'll just mention her.
Yeah, just throw her out, because I'm still confused as to why we even needed her.
We've got Matilda May, who plays Isabella Celia Zancona. You know, Isabella Zancona, big in with the IRA.
So no, like her whole thing I think was something Spanish related, like she's in hiding. But they need to get to her because nobody knows what the Jackal looks like except for her. But when they know, like, they don't know where she is, so they got to go to Richard Gere's character to get to her. But Richard Gere tells them, "Oh yeah, I met him." So why do we still need to go to Isabella if this guy knows him? He seems to know him really fucking well.
It's because this movie, and there are parts of the complexity that I enjoy because it's more watchable. But like, you need Isabella because you need that backstory for Declan, and it's like they'll make big leaps. It's kind of my beef with a lot of the film. They'll make big leaps to make these relationships work, while like completely disregarding the logistics of like international fucking rules of engagement and stuff like that. It's just there's too many people from too many freaking places. Like it's either Russians or it's fucking Americans. Like we don't need the Irish and the Spanish and like the Canadians. Like it's too many people. I like the Isabella turn somewhat. But like completely unnecessary because immediately Richard Gere is like, "Oh no, I've seen that guy."
Yeah,
and he's trying to use it as leverage, but he like gives up all his leverage like immediately. Like he doesn't really get what he wants out of this exchange.
Not at all. And it's like the information they get from Isabella doesn't seem like it helps them at all.
No, not even a little bit.
I talk about what's his name from Michael Lonsdale, like not really doing anything to help move that investigation forward. Isabella, I don't think she really did much to help them get to the Jackal either. It's Richard Gere all the way.
And God, if it wasn't for that accent, like, and it's really effective. Like I think it's really effective when Richard Gere is like, he's like, "No, you guys just don't get it.
Yeah,
you're too by the book. You're too like you're feds." And like I like this sort of I'm just gonna reference everything today. It's kind of like Hannibal Lecter type. Like, let's pull the guy out of prison.
Yeah.
Because, like, he knows
exactly
how a killer works. We got to keep an eye on him, but, like, we need this guy. And, like...
Well, I think it succeeded where the original was weak. We were like, they're not equals in the original, the Jackal and then this investigator. But in this remake, they gave Richard Gere enough where he's like, okay, these two could be equals.
Yeah.
And then, they met, and then they get too personal, which was like, nah.
Yeah.
But I still like that this game of cat and mouse because these two like-minded people, like, who's really got the edge on the other. And then they do, come to head way before the ending, unlike the original. So there are moments where they clash and it's really good, and the setup is really solid. It's just they just make it too personal.
They make it too personal, and they I use the word complex. Like they're trying to weave a narrative that isn't necessarily there at times, especially with like how the Jackal was originally kind of like taken out, but then like they went back for more because like you never get enough in '97. But like Gere being at a disadvantage in terms of like the FBI won't let him have weapons. The FBI won't let him roam free. It's like you're almost like rooting for this guy to be like, "Hey, take the leash off this guy. Let him run, man." Like he figured this out. You guys are like not even playing the same game.
Yeah, man. Let Danny dime. You know what I
mean? Yeah, man. You gotta let him do it. You gotta let him do it. Like the scene where they first clash, like you mentioned, and Richard Gere's like, "Can I please get a gun?" We're like, "You're lucky we're even letting you like walk around uncuffed." And he was like,
which is a good point.
I mean, it is true. They did just let like a terrorist out.
International terrorist. I mean, very lucky. And like they're barely like I said, he's an international terrorist. Is like why he's released from prison, and then like they're barely like watching him. He's just walking around at night. There's a gun in the desk, and he could have just gotten that gun if he didn't stare at it for 5 minutes. And Sidney Poitier walks in.
Yeah. It's funny because Major Valentina is like, who's usually pretty solid, she's just like asleep. It's like, well, I don't know. It's like it seems like that where they're trying to like big up like Sidney Poitier because like, oh, he didn't get me. Like even if he grabbed that gun, I would have got him. It's like they're doing a lot with like Gere's character and this moralizing. Like, is he a terrorist? Is he really just like a veteran of a potentially unjust war? You know what I mean? Like,
and then ultimately it's like, well, I know the Jackal was the one that did those killings, and you're innocent. So. It's very Hollywood, very, very cliche, but I'll just say I do appreciate, bringing up that protagonist. So he is on like even ground with our villain. But, just
It is
that accent.
Yeah, the accent's really rough. That's the roughest part because like there are different things that happen. Like we bring up the Isabella character. When Declan, Richard Gere's character, first comes out of jail, she's married, she's got kids and stuff like that. And she sees him and she's like, "Husband, what?"
Yeah, she's like, sploosh,
right? Even hands him off like a key to a Dropbox or stuff like that. When the turn happens, where you find out that like at one point she was pregnant with Declan's kid, and the Jackal was the reason that she basically like had like a miscarriage or something along those lines. And it was like, ooh, that I'm kind of with you there, right? Like stuff like that kind of works. It's like, all right, he's kind of keeping it close to the chest as to why it's so personal. And like, does it work 100%? No, but it's like, okay, like I can work with that. But we kind of get a weird muddling at the end because of this choice. So it's like, I almost wish they didn't include that because like, I think the movie starts to get muddy because there's too many people trying to like fix their vendettas.
Yeah, because like, you know, we talk about the Jackal being this like business matter of fact guy, and then all of a sudden, well, now I know Isabella's here, so I'm going to try to kill her. It's like, why, man?
Yeah.
Just eye on the ball, man. Just try to kill the first lady. Come on.
Yeah. What are we doing?
Man.
Kill the president's wife.
I mean, it's a cool action sequence, but the motivations are so muddy and making everything so personal and
in that accent.
And it's funny too because like Richard Gere, he's got this goatee, and I'm like, all right, maybe I could follow him. And he fucking shaves it, and now you look more like Richard Gere.
Right.
And now you sound even stupider with that accent.
It's true.
Should just give him a full beard, long hair, or something, so I could just buy it that that's not Richard Gere. It just all I see is Richard Gere trying.
They went full gear. Yeah, and you know, I hate to say it so much because like I like the performance. I like the performance. The accent just it's in the way.
It would have been so much better if it just let him
just a dude
just talk in his regular.
I was an assassin. I tried to take out.
Yeah, kind of like another movie, kind of like The Rock. How Sean Connery was like in jail. You know, he's like, you know, he didn't change his accent. He didn't have to marry. He's still Scottish. Why is the Scottish guy trying to kill the American president? I don't know, but it works.
But see, The Rock, another film that has like even more ridiculous plot line than this movie, and it works. It works. It's a fucking crazy movie.
Yeah, I know. Just thinking of the Rock quotes now. Losers whine about their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. Sorry.
No,
totally off topic now. Oh, God.
That's okay.
Just like the remake a little bit sometimes.
Oh, yeah. That's why I'm perfectly fine with getting off topic. Like, because Richard Gere is so obsessed with Isabella, and there's like a scene, J.K. Simmons is in the movie, just so you know.
He's in the movie. He doesn't get to full J.K. Simmons though.
No.
I was like, ooh, J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, not so much. He plays another FBI detective type character
who plays too much by the books, and he's the reason that the Jackal knows about Isabella.
Right.
He writes her name in the reports.
Right. So
because we got a leak. We got a mole.
Yeah. They still got a mole.
So, I mean, do you want to talk about that? How they did it in both movies? Because they really drag it out in the original film.
Yeah. The original...
Because we talk about it's 20 minutes longer. So, yeah. So, there's a mole. There's always somebody to watch the Jackal and make sure that how he's able to be a step ahead is because we got a mole. So, they hire this beautiful woman to... sleep with one of the men who's in the inner circle of Jackal, and then she just, you know, bangs him, gets information, sends it back to her people. Yeah. And that's pretty much what keeps going on. It felt like we follow her a lot, right?
Yeah, I believe.
And we ultimately she gets found out, and the guy's like he kills himself, which is pretty intense.
It is pretty intense. That character, I believe, is Olga George Picot as Denise. It's cool, I guess, you know, like you got like this honeypot, like double agent type deal going on. Like, you know, they talk about all the people leaking from the OAS, but like the OAS still has some tricks up its sleeve.
Right.
But like, we do spend a decent amount of the movie with her, and like that one scene, even when she's getting the information, so like, tell me.
Yeah, he's like, I can't. But tell me. No, I can't. but tell me.
Yeah.
So it just drags on, and I do like the remake was just like, hey, there's a mole. Whose voice was that? It was mine. I'm the mole.
Oops.
Fuck. I just appreciate that the remake didn't feel like we needed to do that exactly. Right. It was easy enough where you're just like, we have a mole. We have it recorded here. Oh shit, it's me. I do like that it wasn't like, oh, it's my friend who I've been banging. It's like, no, it's me. I ratted everybody out. I'm a piece of shit.
I get some good that shit out here. Yeah. I do appreciate that. It's just like really straightforward. It was me. All right. Slap on the wrist, my dad. Just simpler, you know?
Yeah. We didn't need to drag that out.
Yeah. It was actually a smart place to simplify, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that the remake does make some pretty decent cuts with or like streamline certain scenes in a better way. Like I think we get more out of like scenes where like he gets the gun, right? Like in the original film, we go through the process. Well, how heavy is this? And like
we see him fully assemble it there.
Yeah. And the trigger? Oh.
Yeah, and then when he's doing the target practice, and we just sit there with him while he's adjusting the aiming of it, you know?
Yeah. It's like it's cool. Oh, the gun, by the way, functional. That was a It was a working. Cool. They made 2 models of it, of that lightweight gun. One was like immediately handed over to like the feds or something like that in France or whatever. They're like, all right, you can't keep this. And then one was like put in base like a museum. It belongs to the museum. So that's cool. Like that's the type of stuff I like about the original. That like things are functional and like real and like practical.
Yeah.
It's just that pacing, man.
Yeah, that pacing.
Boy, like,
I mean, you talk about just the target practice. It's cool that like he's got this watermelon and he's trying to hit that target he put on it, and he's just adjusting the gun, and he's ultimately able to do it. You know, that's cool.
Yeah.
Or you could have Bruce Willis with Jack Black.
Yeah.
And he's complaining about how it's off, and then Jack Black's like being annoying. He's like, no, it's not off, man. I should have brought beer. And then he goes, why don't you just run? What? What? I got a what now?
That's a great scene.
So, yeah.
So just to kind of bring in those characters up. In the original film, we have Cyril Cusack, who plays like this elderly gunsmith who makes the light rifle for him. And then we have Ronald Pickup, who I really liked actually in the original, who's the forger. Because like he's one of the more interesting characters because he does something. He's like, no, I'll have the originals for you. I'll give you the negatives. And like that's the first time there's like pushback to the plan. So like I appreciate the forger in that way in the film, but when he got stuffed in the
chest, whatever.
It was like that was weird.
It was weird. Again, just going back to those weird deaths. It was like, I don't know. Is he dead? I don't know.
Yeah,
and I don't want to know.
which was fucking wisely and really well like consolidated with Jack Black's Ian Lamont in the remake. Jack Black's kind of like this like
Jack Black's Jack Black,
slackery techie dude who's got access to like schematics and weapons and stuff like that, who gets a little too greedy. He's like, hey, look, I could get you this remote mount for your giant Gatling gun, or you can give me more money so I don't mess up your plan. And that scene you're talking about, oh man, that's that is way better than shooting a pumpkin.
Yeah, because like ultimately he tests it out on, I think, probably like a pumpkin.
It was still a pumpkin. Yeah.
And then he misses, and he's like, Jack Black's like, no, it's good. He's like, oh, is it good? Run. So he runs, and then he's like, stop, hold out those cigarettes. So Jack Black's just holding out those cigarettes, and he's aiming at cigarettes. He's not trying to kill him. And then he just blasts his arm off.
Pretty badass.
And then he's like, before you bleed out, go by the car really quick.
Which he does.
Which he listens to him for some reason. And of course he just blasts him away right there. So it's a great scene because, wow, you just raise the tension a lot because now we definitely know this guy's not good.
Right.
And we got a fun action sequence out of it with cool. Jack Black.
So, like, as cool as it is to have, like, a practical working light rifle.
Right.
It was like, okay, that's realistic. An assassin would find a way to conceal a weapon.
Right.
Cool, I guess. You know, you kind of missed. Versus Bruce Willis, who has like this fucking crazy American like mounted Gatling gun,
anti-aircraft gun,
blows up the car. Like the bullets are the size of like your head.
By the way, when he misses his first target, it takes down a tree.
Yeah,
one bullet takes down a tree.
Pretty cool. And just like to have that level of firepower. And the movie was like, all right, let's see what's happening here. And then it's just like, whoa, what are we doing here? And you get like somewhat humor out of like the Jack Black scene. Like it's, for as horrific as it is, it's kind of a funny scene.
I mean, I'm not a big Jack Black fan, so
yeah,
I was happy to see that.
Yeah.
Turn to Swiss cheese. And even the cops joke about it.
Yeah.
What's left of him? It's like, Jesus.
Totally.
Nobody cares about that guy in that movie.
No one cares about Ian Lamont. And then, but then, like, again, like, the complexity and trying to stick with parts of the original script gets a little fucking weird because, like, the schematics for the thing were just still at the garage.
Yeah, so yeah, he kills Jack Black for trying to blackmail him, but he forgot to get the blueprints, which is the reason why he killed him.
Right. Like, killing the forger in the original film works because you're tying up a loose end. In this case, you're leaving way more evidence.
Yeah.
Like,
because you're drawing attention because, A, we got a body.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to investigate that body and, you know, maybe go to places he worked or lived. Right. And, hey, look at that. Look at this blueprints. Now they know everything.
Right.
As opposed to if you had just paid Jack Black, A, or if you were thorough in your assassination.
What would have done.
Yeah. And just got rid of the, you know, blow up the plants or whatever, you know?
The real Jackal wouldn't have left that type of loose end.
Not at all.
You know, but like the idea, and look, I get it. It was a cool scene, right? Like that's really ultimately all it was about. It was a cool scene, but like you just use like 50 caliber rounds with uranium in them, depleted uranium. Why? I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Was that really uranium in there?
That's what he said. It was depleted uranium because it spalls. It's spalling. You know, they kept saying spall. I don't know. Weird, but it was like that scene directly led to you getting caught, more or less, because it's like, well, there's all the evidence we needed. It just, it was cool. You know, I'll go back to that, but like it really didn't serve the Jackal's ultimate goal, which I think there are times where the remake will sacrifice plot for action or connection with these characters.
Right, just anything to keep you engaged in what's happening, because if you don't, it does tend to drag.
Which, by the way, I think for the most part works because that original film is tough to sit through the whole thing.
It is.
I'm sure in the 70s it was probably a little bit more interesting. At this point, there's just better ways to do thrillers, but like I'm not taking away. It's actually a fine film. It's just a little, the pacing's a little off.
Yeah.
I mean, these are more or less the characters we have to like get to, right? So this kind of leads us back into like action, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Let's go to the action set pieces. Yeah. And we talked about the first one with Jack Black. Maybe we should talk about the other one when the attempted assassination on Isabella is not there.
Right. So like in the original film, you'll get a karate chop and you get thrown in a dresser. So, hold on, are you saying the Isabella one or the one at the boat?
Boat?
When they first catch up and they start shooting at each other, I guess it doesn't really matter. Before he joined.
Oh, okay, yeah, we could do that one first. Okay, yeah, that's actually
it's a little bit more like light. So yeah, like kind of getting into the action. After the Jack Black scene, you know, the Jackal's kind of made, so he has to like get the Gatling gun.
He has to get out of Canada and get into America, pretty much. Yeah, and they're trying to figure out all the ways. And then Richard Gere's like, "Well, what about by a boat?
What about a boat?
What about if he had his own boat?
What about the Magic Rainbow?
They don't have boats in my lucky charms. It's just a hot air balloon.
Sorry, isn't he red balloons? It's bad. It's a bad accent.
So yeah, but kudos to Richard Gere because that's exactly what the Jackal did. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's go to the boat thing, and then there's this whole event with all these boats.
Takes a boat from Canada to Chicago.
Yes.
So they take the boat from Canada to Chicago, and that's all we're going to say about that. And
doesn't matter. It's a boat. It goes across water, Reggie. It doesn't matter how far it is.
Does. Well, even before that, though, actually, I'm skipping action. I think before he even kills Jack Black.
Oh, is it when he's getting chased by the guys?
Yeah, the random guys. The hijackers. What order of events was that? Doesn't really matter.
I don't know. I mean, that also leads us to the intense power washing of his car scenes.
Yeah.
Which was so important. They had to make sure we knew it was going to happen before it happened.
They had Bruce Willis with no shirt on and a stopwatch, and he painted a car, which is different than washing a car. He painted a car blue, which, by the way, 33 seconds. That's really impressive. To detail an entire, basically Honda Odyssey.
Didn't he, have, a white thing on it and he had to, power wash it off?
He did, but, in the first scene, he puts, that stuff that comes off on it. It's I don't know. It went from, white to blue, and then it goes from...
It went from white to blue.
Right, so I'm just remembering wrong. So
I think he had, some weird paint on it, and he power washed it. And then
you're right,
he timed it. You're right. He did time it. And then, man, we're all over. What should we do?
All right, hold on. So, action-wise, nah, that's just more character building. Let's skip that. Action-wise, there's, some... Here, I'll take a second. So, in terms of some of the action, there's, random scenes, when he first gets the gun, there's, hijackers that chase him, and I think that's just more character building. It's the Jackal put some weird poison on his.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't fucking know.
Is that a real thing?
Maybe you
air poison. You touch it, then all of a sudden you choke.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
It was stupid too because okay, so he practiced power washing his car to change the color, and he timed it, so we knew it was important.
Yeah,
we knew what happened.
And he wasn't wearing a shirt, so you knew he worked out.
Right. And he kept the wig on.
Yes, he did,
which was hot.
Right, it was hot.
So he gets chased by these randoms. I guess they're FBI.
No, they're hijackers who basically found out about his deal. They're random and unnecessary.
Okay, so they chase him
because when he goes to the internet cafe.
Oh, the guy has the online.
Yeah, he goes to dial up and he's talking to his fence or whatever, and he's like, "Hey, I got these guys chasing me. Is it the police?" And he's like, Nah, son, they hijackers. I'm like, okay, hijackers, sure. So I guess it's okay he kills them because we don't really care.
But he goes. He knows they're following. He's in that white van. He goes to this parking garage, which just happens to have a power washing station set up.
Yeah,
as all garages do.
Sure.
And he power washes his car in 30 seconds as he did before. But he sprays that poison on the handle, whatever it is. And still, even though he power washed it, he was sloppy as shit because his car is the only one that's wet.
Yeah.
It's got the white paint drooping into the drain.
It's pretty bad.
So it's you did all this work. You fucking practiced to fucking power wash your car.
Right.
You were sloppy as shit to just leave the paint on the ground and not get anything else wet.
It was pretty bad.
But it's a good thing he put that poison on.
Yes,
because it killed one guy.
And then
I don't know what happened to the other.
Doesn't matter.
They probably went to get some waffles.
Yeah. They were busy. It
was a weird scene, and it came out of nowhere. Because you're right. It's hijackers. I rewound it. It was hijackers. What? What's happening here? What are they hijacking?
Unfortunately, and this kind of happens in this film sometimes. It's action for action's sake. They just. Oh, there's someone tailing me. I was oh, maybe it's the feds, because they allude that it could be the feds.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they kind of have a beat on him, and it's no, there's some other random guys. And we'll never talk about that evidence left behind. We'll talk about Ian Lamont and that evidence, but not that. It doesn't matter. So after he gets rid of Ian, he gets rid of these hijackers. He puts the Gatling gun in this boat, mass, I guess, and he sails from Canada to Chicago, as one typically does. And
it's water, Reggie. If you have a boat, you can do it.
It's true. It's true. That's the typical port of entry. Whatever. But this is when the movie starts to kind of in my opinion, starts to pick up someone and we sort of
yeah.
get this interpersonal thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, Richard Gere, who is not given a gun, even though he, like, was basically like, this is where he's going to be, and...
Well, he's smart, because he's like, well, how's he going to get from Canada to here? What if he took a boat?
Yeah.
And they're like, boat? He can't take a boat. Well, what if he had his own boat? Oh, shit.
Yeah.
He could do that. There's a boat festival thing happening that day. By gum, I think he's got it.
Yeah.
That's exactly how the scene went down.
That's verbatim.
Yeah, exactly.
I love when Bruce Willis is driving past, like, the Coast Guard. Like, ah.
Yeah, he put, like, a cap on, and he waved at everybody, and they waved
It's
back.
like, they don't know what you look like, dude.
Yeah, it's like, all right.
Save the cap for if you need to escape later, man.
So Bruce Willis going from Canada to Chicago?
Chicago.
Yeah, sure. And so he gets to the port, and everybody's looking for him. And of course, Richard Gere's just got this hunch that he's in this area.
Mm-hmm.
He sees this guy, sees his back turned, and Bruce Willis can feel it.
Yeah.
Just turns around, and they got the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Those locked on eyes. And Bruce Willis just fucking like, this fucking guy.
Yeah. Starts shooting at him.
No, but he gets saved.
Yeah, by Major Valentina.
By Major Valentina, yeah. Saved fucking Sidney Poitier, saved fucking Richard Gere.
Also, the amount of self-control Richard Gere has. When those two chicks on the boat are like, hey, what's up? If I've been in prison for like 10 years, I'm like, hey, you know, don't help the FBI.
Like, maybe he's in their bed.
You know?
Best place to look.
Hey, he already did enough at that point. He got them to where they're going.
Seriously, he went above and beyond.
Yeah. But again, this is a good action scene because we get the face-off, right?
That's what you need. That's what the original movie was missing.
Yes.
It's very Hollywood to have your hero and villain kind of meet.
Squinting at each other from
But
a
you
distance.
do need that.
You do.
Because we need to have a confrontation where the hero loses so he can redeem himself later.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So, like, he's getting shot. He's like, I got to dive in the water because I'm getting...
Yeah, he's like, I'm out. Take care of her, Valentina. Avenge me.
I can't protect my women. Oh, man. It's a really good scene. And, like, you know, Bruce Willis escapes. And
it's a great scene because it really establishes that... Because after it's over, like, they realize, like he knew that we were going to be here. And he didn't care.
Yeah.
And that's how they got to figure out there's a mole.
Yeah, right. Now, as much as, like, here's a difference between the films that isn't, at least I don't remember being explored. In the original, they had a lot of good reasons why they weren't looking for him. Like, they weren't putting him out, like, internationally. One, they didn't know who he was, right?
Right.
But, like, they were like, we don't want him finding out we're looking for him. So they don't tip off a lot of the normal ways you would try to catch a bad guy.
Because the more people that know about it, the more likely it's to leak and all that stuff.
Yeah, this point, because it's the 90s, and maybe there's, like, footage somewhere, and, like, I gotta imagine we got it like that, but, like, they don't really have that same mechanism. And, again, this is, like, nitpicking and stuff like that, but, like, you're going from Canada to Chicago to D.C., you know? Like, stuff like that kind of bothers me, but, like, I only bring that up to say that, like, the interpersonal, like, the face-off stuff, love it.
Yeah.
They write themselves in a corner sometimes that, like, they don't really write themselves out of. But, like, again, that's kind of, like, nitpicking, but it's not as smart of a film as the original.
It's not as smart, and it's definitely, like, more eager to please than the original. The original doesn't give a fuck. They're like, you're going to follow this journey, and it's not going to be that interesting, like, from a visual standpoint at all. Like, you're gonna just watch a lot of men talk for a long time.
Yep.
The remake is like, let's crank up the action there. You want these two to meet early? Yeah, they're gonna meet early.
Which is dope because then you know your next action sequence is basically like, well, you know, he's in America, but he doesn't know about Isabella. Oh shit!
And this action sequence is, I think,
this is the best scene.
This scene is fucking awesome.
The movie.
Yeah, seriously, it's really good. So basically, Bruce Willis, Jackal, he needs to get Isabella for some reason because he knows she's involved. So he was going to go to her, and they've already moved Isabella and her whole family.
Yep.
So it's just Valentina and a few of the other agents. American agents. She's ordering the American agents.
Yeah. She's telling J.K. Simmons what to do.
But J.K. Simmons. Oh yeah, J.K. Simmons is taking out the trash. He's taking out the trash. But like, it's a really cool scene because like they're just in the house and you can just feel like the tension rising.
Yeah.
Like, where are you? Where are you? He's like, just take it out the trash.
Yeah.
Flick, I'm taking out the trash. I had you.
Think, Mark.
So,
Think, Major Valentina.
if I don't take out the trash, it's not going to leave stuff out. That's a terrible J.K. Simmons.
It's
but
pretty bad. It's better than the Irish accent of Richard Gere. But like something like that, where like J.K. Simmons went out back and the door's open. So
right.
Like, where's the jacket?
So I assumed like either he's like on the take or like he was like already dead. But like no, okay, he's just an idiot taking out the trash. Yeah, I really did too. Because like his sloppy cop work is the reason he knew about Isabella.
Right.
So you figure like, oh, he's on the take, but no, he's not. He's just inept. Anyway, so like they're in the house and then like they go outside, or they're gonna go outside to like, because there's music all of a sudden, bam, like fucking 90s techno, baby, just fucking going, and then they go outside and they find this like, it's set for like to go off 2 minutes ago. That's weird. Where's Agent So-and-so? This motherfucker's just walking down the stairs, and all of a sudden, pop, 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 fucking bullets come from fucking underneath the stairs.
I didn't know where it was coming from at first.
I was like, shit.
Outside.
That shit was intense. And then like Valentina and J.K. Simmons go back inside. And like, oh my god. I don't know why Bruce Willis even moved the body, because the trail of blood was
completely.
His motivations are really weird.
It's like he's so ahead of them though. Like he's under the staircase. He just comes out, ski mask on, just fucking crazy gun.
Fucking nuts.
This feels very much. This is the point in the movie where like I went full Key and Peele. I was like, Bruce Willis is. I love Bruce Willis. Like it was just. It's such a good scene because like the music is disorienting.
Yeah,
it's shot.
It just keeps going off, that fucking music, and then it goes off again in the house, and then they look, and J.K. Simmons gets fucking killed, man.
Headshot.
Holy shit! And you're like, oh, he's definitely not a bad guy because he just got killed. And then Valentina's all alone, and she's like blasting. She doesn't know where the fuck he is. She's like hiding behind the couch taking cover. Right? She's like behind the couch, right? She's safe. No. Bruce Willis is in the couch! He's on the couch! And he knows! He's just, he's right through. And she fucking gets her, man. And he's like, blood's really dark. It means I hate your liver. Got about 20 minutes to live. It's like, shit, dude.
Bruce Willis. That's pretty good. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. He's redeeming himself from Death Wish. That's what's happening in this movie.
Yeah.
Retroactively.
Yeah. I'm going to do a shitty movie one day. I better do it all out here.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about, like, the reason this movie got made, it's this scene.
This scene is awesome.
This is a great scene. Because, like, Sidney Poitier and Richard Gere are like, by the book bullshit. Like, they jump in the fucking helicopter plane and stuff like that. It is a great, great scene. Like, it is the most tension that I felt when watching the movie.
Yeah.
And, like, in a way that surpassed even, like, the original has, like, tension, but, like, this was, like, the music thing was just like, what the fuck is going on?
Completely disorienting, and you could get like, oh yeah, this is a Jackal, man. Yeah. This is how one man can kill anybody and get the fuck away with it, because he was just so methodical, and it was just so good how he was just able to take everybody out, and he was so calm, so cool, so collected. Oh,
just hiding in plain sight. Yeah. Hiding in fucking plain sight. It was like the feds are doing a sweep through this house. Well, I guess where you're not looking. Fucking little Harry Potter.
Yeah, where Harry Potter actually. Yeah. Fucking Guillermo from What We Do in the Shadows.
It was great. I love that scene.
It was fantastic. I'm so surprised, like, it's not brought up enough. Yeah. That action sequence, because it was intense.
Man. And, like, you had so many characters that, like, already got, like, the nod from you. Like, Gear's out of play. Like, he can't help. Right. Sidney, it doesn't matter. He's already out. But, like, whatever. He can't help. J.K. Simmons, he's taking out the trash. He's not paying attention. And, like, your most elevated in terms of combat character is now gone in this scene. So, like, you got the Jackal and, like, whatever's left at this point. And it's just like, he is so far ahead of these guys, it's not even funny. And he even gets, like, which I think works, doesn't really work. He even gets his little message across, like, you can't protect your women.
Right, which completely fucking tips off the fucking Richard Gere's character. It's like, oh, the real target is a woman.
Yep. And from there, I mean, really, like, we go back into this sort of cat and mouse chase sequence. I think this is around when we find out about the... no, we found out earlier. Never mind. We get back in this, like, cat and mouse type deal, and really, like, just like the original film, they haven't solved the case.
No.
They don't know who the Jackal is. So all they can do is try to figure out who he's taking out. They realize, kind of late in the game, that it's not the FBI director. It's the First Lady. Richard Gere kind of posits that because of that line.
He remembers the line. He saw something on TV or something.
Yeah. Also, in kind of a one-to-one scene, before we get to, like, the assassination attempt, both films have, like, this scene. It's not super important, but I'll bring it up. Has a scene where, like, in the original film, the Jackal goes, like, this Turkish bathhouse.
He's pretending he's from Denmark?
Yeah, he's like a Dane at this point.
Yeah.
With the dark hair. I thought it was, like, the dye was going to come out.
Yeah, they're very Rudy Giuliani-esque.
Yeah. Four Seasons Hotel. Or landscaping. But, like, no, he just, like, it's covered. So, like, the Jackal will do anything. I mean, anything. And, like, he kills that guy. I think the remake does a good job with keeping one sort of, like, the gay scene. Not that there's any... You know what I mean. I think it's good keeping, like, the sort of, like, gay character in the film. And they elevate it by making him part of, like, the FBI. So, like, he's able to get, like... access to, like, this event for the assassination through this character. Much better use of this than, like, some random dude he, like, stayed with. So he didn't get. Like,
well, it's more in line with the Jackal. It's very methodical.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my target has ties to DC, and he's gonna get me in. You know, he's got a residence there. He's got other ties and connections that I can use to my advantage.
Totally.
It's like. It's so interesting, too, because, like, he's at the gay bar, and he's doing this thing where he's just hitting on the guy, and makes out with him, and he's like, I'll call you. And then, like, he calls him, and then he's like...
You gotta have more faith.
yeah. He's like, he's just doing... He's playing a game, man. And then, like, guy shows up at his place, Bruce Willis is already there. He's just like, yeah, it's Bruce Willis now.
Yeah. Like, eating pad thai.
Like, we dyed your hair? Yeah, it's pretty good, right? You just all duded out.
Yeah.
All broke out.
Best of divorce, bro.
It's just so funny. And then it kind of, you know he's going to kill him, but it almost does kind of come out of nowhere. He's like, we thought we were going out. Yeah, we're going to do it later. Yeah. I was like, oh, shit, man.
You can see the long wig Bruce Willis on TV.
Yeah. And then, because, like, the guy's, like, looking at it. He's looking at Bruce Willis and, like, he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
He's just looking at it, and Bruce Willis is like eating his food, and he's like, man, I don't need this shit. I don't need to know if you know or don't know. I'm just gonna cancel that right now.
Just before we get into, like, the assassination, so, like, that's a one-to-one between the films, like the Turkish bathhouse, and then, like, Bruce Willis actually using, like this gay character, like, earlier in the film, calling it back, and all tying back into his plan. Much more the Jackal than, like, the Jackal who, at this point in the original film, is on the back foot. He can't go to a hotel because he's basically made.
Right.
So he just, like, picks up some guy.
Yeah.
They don't have this sequence because they did the Isabella thing in the remake, which I think, for the most part, works. In the original, I'll just shout this character out because she gets a decent amount of screen time.
Right.
Here we go. Let's see. Oh, yeah. In the original, going back to that point, like, at this point, we're still, like, that James Bond, like, am I behind this guy?
This cool guy.
Delphine Seyrig plays Colette de Montpellier. I like the sequence in the original film. Like, he's talking to this woman.
You're trying to figure out what his end game is with her.
Right.
Like, does she have, like, political ties? And then, like, you do see, like, well, ultimately, they just, like, bang, like, the night they meet. And then, like, you do see, like, when the cops go to investigate her, like, she lives in this huge mansion. So, like, oh, is she married to somebody with, like, association with, like, De Gaulle?
Right.
Like, is that why he did it? And then you ultimately find out, no, that's not why he did it.
He just wanted to make that shit.
He wanted some ass.
Yeah,
he's James Bonding it up. And you're like, you can respect that. It's like, all right. He's just
she's like, I'm going to my room. Like, this is over. I got to get up early. She's got a do not disturb sign on her door. And this guy's like, yeah.
He just opens it up, which is pretty creepy.
Yeah, it's super creepy. I was like, this is kind of creepy. And then they imply that it all went okay and seemed consensual. And, all right. Only reason I bring that up is, like, this is the type of stuff in the original film where I'm like, kind of behind the guy. He's like, all right,
Right.
like he's charming and he's picking up women at the hotel and stuff like that. And then like she's important in that original film because she's, to me, the real turn.
This is the turn, yeah, exactly.
When he kills Claudette, I'm like, okay, now I've become villain.
Right.
Truly.
Exactly. And the only reason I can really think of is because she's like, well, the cops came after me and they asked me questions.
She wouldn't have said shit.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything. He's like, okay, I believe you. And then, like I said, gives her that weird kiss of death. And it's like, and I was just like, hey, it was like, I can't believe you killed her. And it was like, B, did he really kill her? Because that was a weird way to kill somebody.
Well, don't worry, Dan, because the maid's going to knock on the door, and then the maid and the butler are going to go out back, and they're going to climb the
window, break the window.
And then they're going to say, Miss, are you okay? And then they're going to walk in, and they're going to like check her pulse, and they're like, she's not okay.
And she's going to be on the news.
And then, yep.
His picture's going to be on there. And then his roommate's going to find out. And then he's going to have to kill his roommate. Which I thought was a pretty effective scene.
That was.
Because, like, he just sees it, and he's like, oh, shit. And then, like, he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
He just kind of follows him to the kitchen, and the camera's just on there, and then they both get out of frame. And then you're just like, oh, shit.
It's a great scene.
That was pretty good. For a movie that doesn't have a lot of action, and when they do have action, it's really kind of...
Yeah.
It didn't age well, let's just say that.
Yeah.
That scene where he kills his roommate that he met at the Turkish bath, I thought that was really good.
I thought that was one of the stronger scenes in this film. So I only bring that up because, like, we are talking action, so I'd be remiss to not bring up, one, him getting some action at the hotel, and then two,
no, it's a great moment because you're right. It is his turn. Because at the moment, all up to that point, we are kind of like, this guy's kind of all right.
This guy's fucking awesome. I want to be like the Jackal.
Oh, he's gonna kill her, or like he really didn't have to kill her,
Right.
but I guess he can't leave any trail at all. So
I think that's when it started kind of solidifying for me. It was like, no, this is a bad guy.
Right? Yeah.
Right? Like,
exactly.
oh man, like, because he doesn't have to.
No,
he doesn't.
He does not have to at all.
You know, she really wouldn't have said shit, and she really has no way of like tying this back to him. Really,
right?
She couldn't like what he looks like.
She couldn't give the cops shit before. She certainly couldn't give them any more information this time.
Yeah, it's like she started to go run downstairs and call the cops, and they were like, "Want to bang?" She's like, "Actually."
Yeah. And he's like, "Well, you saw them. Did they say they would come back?" She's like, "No." Okay. Die. It's like, what are we doing here? Just making yourself a villain.
Dark, dark, dark. Which leads us ultimately to our final, kind of, action sequence in both films.
Okay.
We have the assassination.
The assassination attempt, I guess you could say.
The assassination attempt. We'll start with the easier one.
Yes. Please.
In the original film, he takes some weird, like, jaundice poison that makes him kind of gray. and he dyes his hair gray. And he, like...
It's pretty cool, though, because he's, like, a wounded war vet who has one leg, and he ties it, just to his belt, so he's, like, just, like, limping. I know I'm terrible doing this right now. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool effect. And then, like, I'm watching with Sam. She's like, how did he cut his leg off? I'm like, he didn't cut his leg off. Obviously, he didn't cut his leg off in the mission. So, but it was a really cool effect, and it worked in my guard, because he's like, I just live here. I don't need a permit or anything. And the guy's like, I guess there's an assassination attempt today, but all right, I'll let you go, old man.
It is somewhat a callback because, like, he bought the medals or something earlier in the film.
Yeah, we saw him just, like, looking at them at some, like, I don't know, some, like, fair or something.
So, yeah, I wasn't expecting, because I was like, Sam was like, what the fuck? Like, how is he doing this? Because I didn't know how until, like, they revealed it. But, like, he goes in, and again, this is where he's, like, full villain. He's killed Claudette. He killed the roommate from the bathhouse. He's killing that nice old lady.
Nice old lady. Might I bother you for a water?
This nice old lady who...
well, did he kill her? Because, again, he hit her. Shit. Excuse me. Did he kill her, though? Because I know he, like, hit her on the back of the head. Like, again, I guess because, like, I'm just rooting for this guy. I'm like, he didn't kill her. He just knocked her out. But he did just, like, give her a whacking on the back of the head.
Yeah, she's kind of old, though, man.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, he killed her.
Oh, man, you know what? He knocks out that nice old lady, which again is a bit of a callback because this is why the original Jackal is so smooth. He stole that key earlier in the movie. Like, he went by there, took a key, made a mold of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, fuck, I forgot about that. The mold,
Yeah. So like he had a key to that upstairs room. So like all of this, besides some parts, was elaborately planned. And you know, this is when I'm starting to be like, man, I don't really like this guy anymore because like
killing the old lady.
The old lady is like, come on, dude. You know, it was really cool though when he took his leg out and he was like,
yeah. He's like, man, I was there for a few hours.
That like, it was all just like this great setup because, now I forgot his name. Yeah, Michael Lonsdale's deputy commissioner Claude LaBelle is basically like he's at loss. He doesn't know. He has no idea where the Jackal is.
No.
He has failed in his mission. The only thing he can do is try to stop an assassination at the actual event. It was like Independence Day, Bastille Day, maybe.
Dude, it was some type of French like holiday, and then like they got permission to like film it, like because I was watching it, like obviously there's no CGI, so like we got real like military marching, we got real tanks. I'm like, what is the budget of this fucking
the French
film?
are really polite about it.
Dude, we're at the Arc de Triomphe, man. That's not like a random. That's a huge fucking destination in France, dude. So like, kudos to everybody to film that because it looked like fucking legit.
Yeah,
as shit.
And it's a little early for this in terms of music, but actually, after the first 5 minutes of the film, they stopped with like the soundtrack.
Oh,
it's like everything else is just like things that happen. Like any other music is like people from the band, like during that French independence event and stuff like that. It's like they went real.
That's why it probably dragged on a little bit.
Yeah, just a wee bit. So he takes out the old lady. He goes upstairs, sets up his super light rifle, opens the window, and that's how Lonsdale's able to figure out where he is.
No, that's not how he figures it out. He goes up to the random guard that let him pass when he was disguised as the old man with one leg. He just randomly talks to him. He's like, blah, blah, blah. He goes, blah, blah, blah. You don't hear, it's inaudible dialogue because we got the parade going on, but the two of them are just having a back and forth, and he just gestures, and then he looks up at the apartment, and he sees the window, and he's like, oh, you fucking idiot! Yeah. That was him! And then they rush up to the Jackal.
Yep. They rush up, that random idiot gets shot immediately. Well,
No,
I'm wrong.
No.
The Jackal takes a shot.
Takes a shot at
De Gaulle, who does this weird bow thing and saves his life. And which was also really cool. I guess because of the nature of this gun or however it worked, no one was the wiser.
Yeah, the super silencer on it, and all it did was pick up some dust from the ground when...
Really, really very nice scene. I'll give him that. Like, that was a nice touch. The fact that, like, everything went on as expected. Another kind of little trivia thing. The De Gaulle actor apparently looked a lot like De Gaulle. Like, almost like a body double.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, French people were, like, passing out. Like they
were freaking out because De Gaulle had died 2 years prior to the filming of this. So it was really confusing to some locals.
Sure. So that's crazy.
Hey, kudos to him.
Yeah. They got real.
They just dug him up. Like, act for 2 days. Help us out.
Yeah, so as the Jackal's trying to like reload his gun, boom, knocks down the door. Here's Lonsdale and that guard. He takes the rifle, shoots the guard guy. Lonsdale picks up the guard's submachine gun,
throws him away.
Fucking takes out the Jackal. Then he watches the Jackal get buried in an unmarked grave.
Yeah.
And
we'll never know who he was.
Yeah. And for kind of like, it's not really an after scenes thing. Like the guy they think it was, I forget his name. It's like
yeah, it was like Charles Clement or something.
Jackal. Charles
Jackal.
It's like
Calthrop or something.
Calthrop, yeah, something like that. Call that's French for jackal. It's like, is it? Sure.
We talk about how realistic this movie's been. That was okay, we're really reaching here now. Yeah. That's why he named himself Jackal.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, that's back in London, and they're like, we're taking down the Scotland Yard. It's like, I bet you are. And, that guy's cleared. But what's kind of cool about the end is that we never really know who the Jackal was.
No.
So, the Jackal, quite the professional.
Quite the professional.
Mm-hmm.
So, that ending.
That ending's
a bit anticlimactic.
Kind of wet.
The whole movie is building up towards this assassination, and it is thwarted, honestly, just by some random dumb luck. I just happen to be talking to this random security guard who just happened to let the guy go. And we realized, there's an open window. So it just, again, you're talking about, like, are they competent? No. They are so behind, and just dumb luck. I mean, they're able to fucking stop the Jackal.
To the point that, like, really the only thing that saved Godal's life was that he kind of happened to bow.
Yeah. As if he didn't, or maybe just putting the medal on, whatever he did to move forward a little bit so the Jackal didn't get him.
Yeah. Which is on the Jackal, by the way. Like,
yeah, come on, you gotta anticipate that.
You gotta take a better shot than that.
Yeah, come on. Like, you read his body language. What's he doing? Is he putting a medal on? He might be moving if he's putting a medal on.
That's true. This is where the Jackal fucked up.
This is his only downfall.
There was a couple of them. Like, I would have taken, I think, $250,000 in '73. I would have taken the $250,000. I would have went to Italy, and maybe I would have banged that lady again. And just like kept it moving. You know what I mean? Like that. The Jackal, I don't know, man. Too much of a professional. He really wanted that kill in his resume. His last job, because after you kill the president of France, you really can't work anymore.
Yep. That's just understandable.
Yeah, it makes sense. So $500,000.
Lee Harvey Oswald didn't work anymore after he killed Kennedy. So
that's true. Allegedly,
if he worked alone.
Grassy knoll.
Let us know what you think in those comments.
Actually, did you know Oliver Stone is kind of like redoing? He's doing a documentary. Let's not.
Okay.
He's not doing
redoing JFK.
No, he's doing like a documentary thing. That's like there's a cut that's 2 hours and there's a cut that's 4 hours. So like, yeah, whatever. But that's the thing. Okay. Yeah. Tough ending. Not a fan.
It sucks because, like we talked about, it's a very slow-paced movie, and then it is building up to this assassination. So, like at the end, I was like, "Better fucking kill him."
Yeah,
I've been watching this fucking movie.
Somebody gotta die.
And then just to have it like kind of random happenstance that he stumbles upon the guard that knows where he is, and it's just like
this
is so incompetent.
This is a callback. There's more action in the original Stepford Wives. I think more people die in the original Stepford Wives.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
All the wives. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I don't know. Like, unfortunate. Like, I get that, let's thwart the bad guy, but there wasn't enough in between.
Yeah.
There should have been, like, more action or, like, a confrontation between the protagonist and the antagonist before the end of the film.
That's one thing the remake did, and I was happy to see that.
It was good. Now, we'll talk about that ending, because I think they did that, and then they did more, and then they did more, and then they did more, and no one was asking for that. So, all right, to get into the remake ending, right? So, we've had this best scene in the movie. J.K. Simmons is dead. Major Valentina, she's dead. And they're like, well, I guess all we can do is go to the event. Like Richard Gere, like scaling shit. Like it's weird. Like he's on a roof for some reason at some point.
Were we at the event? Wait, hold on. I'm trying to remember him on the roof. Oh yeah. He's on the roof with the worst green screen effect from 1997 for sure. It was just like, oh, this isn't like real at all. It's like. It didn't age well.
The guy that's not allowed to hold the gun at any point is like, "Hey, sniper protecting the first lady. Can I hold that?"
No, Sidney Poitier said give him a gun before that, so he wasn't.
The sniper rifle that's protecting.
Well, no, that's okay because we're desperate times, Reggie.
Yeah.
He knows he could see better if he has a sniper rifle to look for the Jackal.
I guess so, man. Whatever. Like that.
But the setup, no, let's get to the setup first so the Jackal is at this event where the first lady, that's the real target, she's going to speak. And stupidly, like, she's going to keep talking. Mm-hmm. It's like, we phoned her, she still wants to talk. There's an assassination attempt on your life. Right. You're still going to fucking talk? And then they're rushing there, like, they're going to stop it. Like Sidney Poitier's character is like, we're going to get to the First Lady. To do what?
I know.
To let her talk? Because
Right.
she already said she's not going to fucking stop. Anyway, back to the Jackal, because this is the more interesting stuff. So he's dressed up as a cop, and all the cops are just surveying all around, and then like a cop car comes up and was like, "Yeah, you see a white van?" He's like, "Only this red one over here. I already checked it. It looks good. You check it again." Nah, don't bother yourself. It's all good.
That better safe than sorry bullshit.
Yeah. So like again, there's Bruce Willis, kind of doing an awesome job as the Jackal, and it's obviously his van, which I thought was pretty cool, and he's got that remote control computer thing from Jack Black. So he's just waiting for that First Lady to come up, and the whole time Richard Gere, Sidney Poitier, Richard Gere's looking for the Jackal. Sidney Poitier is trying to get to the First Lady. Like, again, for what reason? I don't know. Just to be near her if she gets shot at?
Something like that.
So, Richard Gere just on the roof, looking, I can't see shit. I don't know what's happening. You better give me the sniper rifle. So he gets the sniper rifle. For some reason, he's just randomly scanning. Like you're actually gonna do. There's like hundreds of people
pointing at everyone.
Itchy trigger finger. Anyway, so he finds the red van ultimately, and he's able to I fucking found it. And then Bruce Willis is like, I'm about to shoot. He's about to shoot, and then Richard Gere, bam, shoots it, and he takes out the computer, the camera. The camera is what he takes out on top of the sniper rifle. So he's like, fuck. Bruce Willis is like, not stopping now. Hits the button. It's about to shoot, but Sidney Poitier's like, no. Jumps in and takes the First Lady down and saves her life, and bullets just rain all over that stage. And Bruce Willis is like, oh shit, what should I do? Keep firing! Gotta hit something! So he just keeps fucking going. Like, oh yeah, maybe if this thing could go up and down, but man, I only had specs to go left and right.
Must be right.
Fuck, man. So he just keeps blasting, and he ultimately just fails his mission.
Yeah. He fails his mission, and then basically tries to get out of Dodge. Now, I'll pick up here just because it's a DC movie. I used to live in DC. He's at the Capitol Heights Metro Station.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. So, also, you'll note earlier, this is going to come back into play, Isabella lived in Virginia, which isn't too far from Washington, D.C. Even though when she was relocated, I don't know what that was. But basically, he escapes into the Capitol Heights subway, and Richard Gere is now no longer on the roof. He's now street level, and is the only person in pursuit of the Jackal at this point. He's on a cell phone from like the 90s, talking to someone, like giving details.
Oh, Richard Gere.
Richard Gere.
Oh, I didn't see that scene.
Yeah,
which makes sense later.
Yes. So there's a point where he's underground, because these metro stations are underground, where he's still talking to someone on his cell phone. Like he makes a call. Impossible.
You can't do that.
Impossible. Like I had a cell phone in the 2000s that I couldn't do that with. Like maybe now, the technology, but it is still tough. Spotty cell technology down there. But whatever, would have been better with a walkie-talkie actually. So the Jackal is now underground. There's a train coming, and like he's got a gun, Gere's got a gun, and it looks like the Jackal's going to turn around and start shooting at him in this crowded subway. And he just kind of dives in front of a train, narrowly missing it, and now his view is obscured for Richard Gere. He was like, oh, shite! And
he's like, oh, shit, I lost him forever! I'm never gonna fucking find him! And then he looks down the tunnel and he sees Bruce Willis limping along. Oh, he's fucking right there!
Yeah.
Which was like, again, it's like, dude, you're this fucking methodical, very thorough, just very thoughtful person, and then you're just running like very slowly away. Come on, man, you're killing me.
So Gere's in foot pursuit through this tunnel. I assume they're at the next station or something like that. The shooting lets out like Bruce Willis takes a hostage. And online they made a very big point that like this hostage was like 13 or 14 years old. It doesn't really translate that well.
Well, she seemed really young. I thought she was a teenager.
Yeah. So yeah, he grabs a teenager, and more of this you can't protect women stuff.
Yeah, he calls back. You still can't protect your women. It's like, oh no, what are you doing? It's becoming cartoony.
Yeah. he even makes like the teenage girl say, "Tell him, Declan, you can't protect women." It's pretty shit at this point, and Declan's like, "All right, you got me." He puts his gun down, and just as Bruce Willis's Jackal is about to take him out, a gunshot.
But not his.
Well, who the hell shot the Jackal?
I don't know. Maybe it was a person on the phone.
Someone on the phone. It was Isabella for some reason. And she had
still on the phone, even though she hasn't been talking to Richard Gere for a while.
Who knows? Who's on a cell phone underground, and now it's probably not Capitol Heights Metro anymore. It's whatever the next stop is on the blue line. So, yeah, okay. Which, by the way, we mentioned, but like, Richard Gere and Isabella both have a bone to pick with the Jackal because he shot her, leading her to not carry Richard Gere's child to term. I guess.
Killed their unborn kid. Pretty much the reason she's in hiding and the reason he's in jail is what I'm
basically
led to believe.
So it's like, okay, like, all right, Isabella is weird, but like, I'll take it. Like, she gets a turn. And I guess we wrapped up that storyline. And no, not yet, because I'm like,
better let the man finish it, baby.
Yeah. Bang, bang, bang. And then bang, bang, bang. And then bang, bang, bang. It was like, yo, how many bullets are in this clip? Yeah. So Richard Gere, fuck you, Isabella. Like, I know this was your revenge, but it's my revenge too. I went to jail. You just didn't have a kid. It's like, all right, guys. So they stop the Jackal. Isabella, more or less, goes back to
her husband and family.
Life as is. Sidney Poitier is mildly wounded. He's fine now. And he's the FBI agent that saved the First Lady.
Yeah,
So
well, before that, they do kind of call back to the original movie. Like, well, we don't know who he is. We'll never know who he is. They do that.
They do that, right? The unmarked grave and all that stuff. So, like, yeah, they do the grave scene. This time there's another person because they added so many people to this remake. So he's like, look, I can't get you out, but I can get you a minimum security, which means I basically got you out. And
good enough, right? Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. You know, you kept your word, I kept my word. It's like, not really. But
because, yeah, like you said, he's like, well, I am untouchable now because I did save the First Lady, so maybe I go get coffee and maybe you're here when I come back. So he's like, okay. I got you. I got you. So
I'll put some Jameson in that coffee.
He's like, you don't drink coffee. You drink, what is it called? Guinness over there. He's like, come on.
Yeah, it's
ultimately.
Sorry.
Ultimately, Sidney Poitier's character is just like gonna get coffee and let Richard Gere go free.
Yep. So Richard Gere stops the Jackal. Isabella
stops the Jackal too.
Stops the Jackal, kind of. Sidney kind of stops the Jackal. Everyone kind of to stop the Jackal.
Well, I want to give Sidney credit.
Yeah, well,
he did save the First Lady.
He did. That was a good dive.
If he didn't do that,
he wasn't too old for that.
He took a bullet for that.
Yeah. By the way, if he took one of those bullets, he would not be alive.
He wouldn't have a leg.
No, he would have
ripped it right off.
He'd be fucking dead. It would have spalled all over the place. Would have spalled all over the First Lady. So
it was like it travels at like 1,800 meters a second or something. It's like you can fire 100 bullets before the first bullet hits its target, which is a pretty cool way of describing a gun.
That's pretty cool. And also, like, that gun could have taken out like a Humvee. So, like, if one of those...
It took out a tree with one bullet. A tree. And you're talking about human bone? Come on.
It's crazy.
Go right through that.
Yeah, he wouldn't have a leg.
Yeah, he wouldn't.
But
he'd be like the Jackal in the original.
Yeah.
Callback. Nice callback.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden he'd have gray hair on the side.
Yep.
The stress from the situation.
Getting too old. Yeah. It's like, sure, there's more action. And I'll say this is overall a better scene. It just goes on too long.
It goes on too long. And, you know, it does have that stupid Hollywood cliche of like, well, you didn't see her coming, and you died, but you didn't really die. I hate the whole fake. He's not dead. He's really alive. I hate that shit.
It's so
fucking Hollywood. But I do like that it didn't just like kind of end. Like we did have that kind of confrontation between our hero and our villain,
right?
Which
closure.
I feel like we needed that for sure. Like after you have to stop the assassination attempt, but like let's have a 1-to-1 with these two, which I'm glad we got.
I felt like when I watched the original, because I was for the most part digging it, and I was like, then I was like,
right, because it's just like it's over. That's it. That was it.
Yeah, that part kind of bummed me out. And then this remake, like I would have been fine up until like he's back. It's like okay,
I know.
We did this, just for Richard Gere to be the one to put the bullets in him. I thought it was a stronger statement. Isabella took him out.
Yeah, I would have been fine.
She shouldn't have been there. Like, makes no sense.
No sense. Like, was she just there? Is that where she was hiding in D.C.? That he was able to make a phone call? She was there in like 20 minutes.
Yeah. The witness protection sucks. Yeah, I don't know. It was there's pros and cons of fleshing it out. I think. I guess we'll talk about that when we talk about, our final kind of judgments here. I mentioned music slightly. There's not a lot of music in the original. Mm-hmm. Once you get past like the opening kind of score, that's it. This remake, I don't really recall a lot of music except for that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember the music in the woods.
That one scene.
And I remember the end credits kind of because it was kind of heavy, and I was just going. I was like singing it after I saw the movie.
Yeah, like I think the easiest way to kind of break this down is like the original film is going for a more realistic kind of what would a assassin do type thing, and the remake is like, can we make a 90s action thriller?
Right. Can we put a little bit more action in there just to make it a little more engaging for modern day audience?
Yeah.
Which is ultimately I think they were going for.
Yeah. So I guess to that regard, should we say whether or not this movie should exist? Okay. Who's going first?
You can ask me if you want. I'll go first.
Should this remake exist?
Alright, so, like I said when I was watching the Day of the Jackal, like, man, what a long movie. And, like, I appreciate that. I really do. Like, it didn't, like, try to hold your hand or, like, try to, like, just, like, even, like, please the modern day audience. It's like, this is what's happening, and you can either go along for the ride or not. Like, we don't really care, because this is... It was a very realistic way of going about it, because there were so many characters, especially, like, I guess on the good guy side. It was just like, well, man, I got a little lost, but it was easy to follow the Jackal. I understood the Jackal, and like you said, he was very good and like very James Bond-esque, and like I like that. And then he did have that turn. I was like, fuck, but it was like it's a really good movie. Ultimately, kind of let down by the ending though, because it is kind of just random happenstance how they stopped the Jackal. But I think it's. Overall, I think it aged well. Yeah. For what they did at the time.
I really think... Sorry.
So, I was expecting, when I heard Bruce Willis is in the remake, I'm like, okay, so we're going to 90s cheese it up. All right, I know what we're doing. I already knew about the Jack Black scene, getting his arm blown off. So I went into it, kind of just expecting like 90s cheese, 90s action cheese and all that stuff. And, I was surprised by, like, actually Bruce Willis in this movie, because he actually does a really good role as the Jackal. And it was fun to go on that ride with him through these multiple personas that he kind of took on just to, stay one step ahead of it. And ultimately he is. And then the inclusion of somebody on the opposite side who's, like, as good as him, like, that's a good idea. That makes sense. It's less realistic, but that, as a movie, it works. I don't like Richard Gere's Irish accent at all. I don't like that we made everything personal. I don't think we needed Isabella. Sidney Poitier, definitely underutilized. But, man, when I was hoping for action, we fucking got it, man. Yeah. Those action sequences were really good. I found myself really enjoying a lot of it. And then, I did moan a lot over, like, a lot of the cliches, especially more towards, the very end. Once Bruce Willis is, like, he failed his assassination, he just becomes, like, straight up villain. Like, tell him this now, say this now. It's just like, oh, man. We're just, like, all the goodwill that the earlier movie had brought, it just, like, was decreasing steadily because of that ending. But ultimately, I enjoyed it, and I do think it should exist. And I was like telling Sam, because she was watching with me, I was like, fuck, I gotta tell Reggie I like this movie, because I had a good time. I enjoyed it more than the original just because it was just more engaging overall. I mean, I appreciate what the original did and I get it, but you know, it's like a lot of nothing going on. It's kind of like the Seinfeld of movies for a bit. It's like just this is nothing happening in these scenes. We're just seeing him go from point A to point B very thoroughly. So I appreciate the, you know, just like making it a little more interesting. You know, mostly with the different personas that Bruce Willis was able to do, and you know, give me a cheesy action sequence here and there. I love it, but you know, it's full of a lot of the Hollywood tropes and cliches that you kind of like hate today. But I don't think it was enough to kind of ruin the experience for me. So overall, yeah, I liked it, and I thought it should be made.
Yeah, kind of just picking up from there. Like, I feel very similar about the original movie. Like, for the first hour, actually, I was like, man, I really like this movie. This is such an interesting, like, portrayal. And it was like, wow, they really, like, they're not pulling punches. They're playing this really straightforward. And, like, basically after the hotel, like, he hooked up with the lady scene, it started to just really start to drag for me. And I was like, man, I just wish there was more going on, because I still like this film. It's a good movie. It's just the pacing is poor, and I think that's probably just time. Time has done that portion of the movie no favors, but the overall framework is still a very solid film. So, with that being said, like, what this remake does really well is the pacing. Like, they found a way to take these lulls and make them more interesting. You know, the hijacker thing, is that too much? Sure. You know, is the Isabella stuff a bit much? Sure, but it's something. It's something to watch. It's something to kind of keep you engaged and compelled. I think the original film is a smarter film.
Yeah, for sure.
But smarter doesn't always mean entertaining, and I think that this remake is far more entertaining. Bruce Willis is really strong early in the film, like you mentioned. The disguises are fun. Like I said, I was getting big Nick Cage vibes, but also, like, which you don't always get from Bruce, like you said, like the kind of acting chops to like back that up. It's like you throw someone in a wig in like a fat suit, like it doesn't always, it's not always great. And like to be able to do that and still have credibility as a killer by the end of the movie, that's a pretty strong turn. Richard Gere, I generally liked his performance in terms of like the emotion and the story behind it. That accent is just so fucking rough, dude. Like
it's too distracting.
Yeah, I just wish I wasn't there, because everything else about the performance is actually really good.
If it was just Richard Gere, it would be so much better.
And your thing was like the Isabella thing was like, you're right. You don't really need Isabella because you have Valentina.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like you're making something there. Like if Isabella was there and she was like, look, I like you, but you know, I got this new life. It's over between us. That works a lot better, and it matters more when Valentina dies.
Yeah. Because then that's all she's got. That's all he's got.
That's right. So like, I don't know, like they make weird choices like that throughout the film. They made some really poor choices on the very, very end of the film in terms of like the hostage situation and how they decided to handle that. The cell phone thing, all that was really cheesy. Going from Canada to Chicago, shit like that just bothers me. But like the face-off between the guys, the Jack Black scene, that incredible action sequence. Just the interaction, minus the accent, between Gere and Bruce Willis, the plausibility of like the hate that these characters have for each other was all there. And I think that fleshing out that backstory, yeah, they overdid it, but like when they weren't overdoing it, it worked really well. So I gotta say, I actually, same as you, I like this movie. I was surprised that I didn't think it was just some dumb action movie. There was enough there to to overcome the poor choices that were made. And I think that anytime a movie can overall get it right, I'm gonna give you props for that. Yeah. You know, the ending was more satisfying, a little muddy, but more satisfying. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by how well they adapted to Jackal for a modern audience. And I think minus some nitpicky like logic stuff that you're supposed to turn it off anyway on a movie, I think it worked really well. So I can say this remake should exist.
Yeah. I think the ending is more satisfying because they gave us a stronger protagonist.
There's someone to root for.
Right. Exactly. Like you're kind of given, that with
Lonsdale.
Lonsdale?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of given that with Lonsdale, but like not enough. Like he's in the front, but he's not in like it's not obvious like
he's not fun.
He's not fun. There's nothing to him. Like I told you, I can't describe his personality at all because it's like he's just there. But
at
least Richard Gere made a choice.
Yeah,
and I don't agree with that choice, but they did enough with his character where the confrontation between him and Jackal was satisfying.
Yeah,
multiple times.
Yes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I was really surprised. Like I kept saying out loud, I was like, I think I like this movie. Like I just kept saying that to Sam. I was like, I'm enjoying this. I'm having a good time.
I concur. Like I was thinking the same way as you. Coming in, I was like, I gotta admit, I like the movie, man. Like, the end kind of pissed me off because I was like, come on, guys, I'm trying to give you.
Yeah, I'm still alive. Oh no, don't do that.
Like, I'm trying to give you credibility for like a decent adaptation here, and they tried to pull that back, but the framework was strong enough to hold.
Yeah,
They
did enough. They did, like you said, they did more good than bad. So.
Anytime you do that, probably a good movie.
Yeah, it was solid. And I was remembering this as you were saying your conclusion, like Bruce Willis in his mustache as the Canadian guy, kind of reminded me of his character in Death Becomes Her.
Wow. Yeah.
I really like that.
That's a great reference. Yeah. I'm pleasantly surprised by Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Early work. I mean, most of the work. Like,
most of it. Honestly,
about 5 minutes where I was like, yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, like honestly, like when he said the gay bar, like I thought, like maybe this is just his his woman at the hotel. Yeah. Maybe this is he's just a gay guy. Like that's what a way to go.
That would have been interesting. It still was 97, so I don't know how. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know how much leeway, but like the fact that there even is a gay character, the fact that they even make out, like that's actually pretty.
Yeah, he fought for that because originally, he just killed a gay character, and like they did test screenings, and like the audience like cheered a little too hard that a gay guy got shot. So like, oh, we got to redo this. And Bruce Willis is like, whatever you do, as long as you keep the scene where we're kissing, just keep that in, and we'll work it out. And then they re-edited it, so like he killed him later.
That's really cool. Really cool.
That's kudos to the filming.
I think it really helped the movie, like the fact that. It was kind of true to the original in that sense. Like, again, we don't know because of how subtle the original is, like, what happened between those two characters. But, like, the fact they kind of lay it out there in the remake, I think, was actually one of the stronger points to the film.
It also just plays in the character of the Jackal. Like, well, maybe he's gay. I don't know if he's gay. He could be. I don't know. I don't know. Just like Sidney Poitier doesn't know at the end of the movie.
Right.
I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Except that he had a vendetta against Richard Gere.
And even like the original Jack was like, I don't know. Who knows? And I think that's the strength of having this like code name character of just mystery. There were also, I didn't do a lot of research on this, but like there's more that was filmed, like in a remake.
Oh, the remake.
Yeah, there were some more scenes that I guess were kind of more 1-to-1 from the original that were like cut, and I think that. Based off what we saw, that any cut probably made a lot of sense. Because, like, I don't think we missed anything.
No, really. I think there was plenty in there. If anything, you can maybe cut a few things. But...
Yeah, and, like, it's cool they kept, like, because the movies have similar runtimes, the fact that you have so much more to, like, discuss. Like, as much as I like the original, like, I put down two characters.
It's all you really got.
Besides the lady.
Yeah, except for the one lady.
Claudette, but it was like, I don't know. Like,
I mean, again, just plays into like just how real that would be because when you have an international terrorist who's going to assassinate the president, it's not going to be just one guy who could figure it out. It's a very Hollywood trope. So it makes sense. Okay, we need like an army essentially to figure out like who this guy is.
Interpol, it's MI6.
Yeah, exactly. All these different agencies So yeah, very realistic. It doesn't, just play to those, cliches, but, does it make for a good movie? Depends.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people probably will be bored just watching that
Yeah.
stuff.
I think a modern audience may struggle with the film.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for the most part, I think that like it's actually a really strong movie.
It is. And it's pretty bold.
Yeah, it is.
Bold as hell for just doing that.
Totally. It's just you got to know what you're in for, right? Like if someone was like,
right.
Hey, I'm trying to hang out on like a Friday, I want to watch a movie. I'm not going to say watch this, but like if you're interested in thrillers and want to see kind of like a prototype, like really decent, beyond decent, like a good take on the genre. Yeah, check this out. It's a little dated.
Yeah, it's a little dated, but it's a very strong take on the genre.
Mm-hmm.
Before we kind of solidified, like, okay, maybe they should meet a little earlier.
Right. I mean, that's basically it. And like if they don't, then there's some back and forth between like going locations that could have been skipped, like consolidating the gunsmith and the forger into one character in the remake. That's a strong choice. Like, I think that would have worked better in the original. Do we need to go see the gunsmith and then go see the forger? Like, I don't know if we need to do both with how much time elapsed between that and how much time you spend doing it. So, some of the consolidation in the remake actually, I think would have served the original better as well.
Mm-hmm. So, ultimately, a decent, both films,
Mm-hmm.
pretty, I'd say the original is good, but I'd say the remake's fun.
Yes. Yeah, that's the best way to say it. Like, the original is a good film. Like, it's an objectively good movie. It just isn't that entertaining.
Right.
And that's okay. Yeah. Like, a movie doesn't have to always entertain you. There's different reactions you can get from film. I mean, we know that from everything we've watched. I wouldn't say Insomnia is, like, entertaining. It's, like, it's dark and it's disturbing.
But I think it's just that, like a film like that is just a little more engaging.
The
thing is, like, we're just following, like I said, very thorough. We're going step by step by step in that original film, which is bold. Mm-hmm. Very bold. And it, like,
I gotta imagine it's very true to the novel. And I think that director made a good choice by working with, like, a more unknown Edward Fox at the time, because you can't do that with a movie with Bruce Willis and Richard Gere. You can't just be like, well, we're gonna like,
especially if you cast Bruce Willis, you
have to.
There's gotta be. You got Die Hard in there. You gotta put fucking action.
The action that's in the movie like has to be there because you cast Richard Gere and Bruce Willis.
Yeah, and like we said, that house sequence, it's good.
That's worth the price of admission right there, because that scene, when it hits, like, I just was not expecting anything to, like, quote unquote move me like that. I was not expecting to be like, oh shit.
I mean, you can understand why the Jackal's a Jackal at that point.
It's like, let me
it's fucking good.
Turn this up. This is crazy. It was just such a, like, it put the character over the top. It was like, this guy is legit.
Right, because in the original film, you don't really have anything to show like he's a really good assassin.
Mm-hmm.
He's very methodical in leading up to an assassination.
Sure.
But we've not actually seen him do anything other than some weak action sequences where he just kind of hits somebody and they die.
The figuring out who Isabella was, the body count that he puts in that scene, the way he goes about doing it, taking out a major character while showcasing some motivation. Like, it's just, the scene does a lot. And it's one of the best action sequences I've seen in a movie in a while, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Great. So that's what we thought about Day of the Jackal and the Jackal. What did you guys think? Did you agree with us? Did you disagree with us? Please let us know in the comments. Reggie, I think I know what I want to do for the next episode. So I'm going to change it up a little bit. We just did like kind of suspense, thriller, action, I guess you could say, if you're talking about the remake at least. But I was going to go for a movie, Flatliners.
Whoa. I've been waiting for this one, actually.
Flatliners. I know.
Beat me to the punch.
There we go. So I was just looking it up before you arrived, and I was like, Flatliners. Yeah.
All right.
I want to do that because, like, well, we'll get into the history, my history of Flatliners next time. But yeah, Our next episode is going to be Flatliners.
I dig it, man. It's one I've been looking to do. We'll get into my history of it as well. But yeah, nice choice.
Cool. All right, so that pretty much does it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. If you're on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. We love the comments. We love reading them and talking with you guys. If you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating and help us grow this little thing we do over here.
Absolutely. Yep, you can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Retro vs. Remake. You may have noticed I've been uploading videos, so I'm catching this up. I'm going to get this all caught up before the year is in. So, hey, man, love all the feedback, and we're going to keep them coming. That being said, I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Buick. This has been another episode of Retro vs. Remake. The Irish edition.